Chapter 491. Following the divine bird's sea quake, everyone's body trembled. Then, they gave up their solemn attitude as emperor-level experts and surrounded them. Everyone's eyes flashed as they saw through the illusion. They couldn't help but comment. TSK. Brother Lu actually made a move. It's not easy, Yimingshi said. I hope he doesn't kiss poison out of Shinong Qingyan's mouth. Then, he will fall into the hands of the little devil girl for the rest of his life, Zitian said gloatingly. Shinong Qingyan felt more than 10 gazes on her. She stomped on the surface of the sea fiercely, creating huge waves. Wave after wave, they smashed towards the seaside house. Everyone laughed. Did she want to attack them with such a small trick? Yi Qinghan shook his head and didn't make a move. However, Xia Qiue made a move. With a wave of her hand, she imprisoned the surroundings and the sea calmed down. Forget it, stop looking. Let them enjoy their time together, Yi Qinghan said softly. Everyone retracted their divine senses and sat down. At this moment, Si Wuxia suddenly ran over and said anxiously, Master, I don't know what's wrong with Tai Hua. He seems to be a little crazy. Yi Qinghan's brows twitched. Tai Hua was a great emperor's Dao fruit. Until now, they hadn't figured out his identity. He had never revealed any abnormalities. Now that there was a change, it instantly caused everyone to rush out. The young Tai Hua pointed at the void and kept rising. Tai Hua, who didn't know how to cultivate, actually flew up. Moreover, there wasn't any true essence fluctuation. The space didn't even move. He seemed to have become lighter and swayed with the wind. Which great emperor's Dao fruit is he? How can he recover? Gu Qingyu asked doubtfully. I don't know yet. If we follow him, we should be able to find some clues. Yi Qinghan flew over and followed the direction Tai Hua was pointing at. His eyes pierced through the plain and realized that the direction he was pointing at was actually the eternal battlefield. Whoosh! Yi Qinghan brought Tai Hua with him and used stellar transposition to appear outside the Aeon battlefield. Now, neither time nor space could restrain him. Following the direction that Tai Hua had pointed out, Yi Qinghan quickly entered the depths. There were monarch formations everywhere, and the palaces of countless ancient factions were dilapidated and overgrown with weeds. It was like a ghost town. A terrifying battle had happened here, and countless ancient and eternal great monarchs had shed their blood here. The people of the world thought that this was the most ominous place in the world. Once one was tainted by karma, there would definitely be bad luck. No expert had ever dared to step into the deepest part of this place. The deathly aura there was enough to kill quasi-emperors or even emperor-level experts. Occasionally, a phantom would rush out and flash past the depths. No one knew what kind of existence it was, but it was extremely terrifying, like a ghost. Yi Qinghan stood outside and looked at the deepest part. He knew that the creatures here were different from the ghost spirits in reincarnation. The ghost spirits in reincarnation all had souls, rationality, and even emotions. However, the things here were very ominous and gave off a very strange feeling. Yi Qinghan couldn't describe that feeling. What a strange feeling. After entering the great monarch realm, I didn't feel panic even if I met a venerable emperor. However, I actually have such a feeling here. Yi Qinghan hugged Tai Hua. Seeing that he was going deeper and deeper, he summoned frenzy. The origin of fire was vast and mighty, shattering the fog as he walked deeper. The fog in the depths had the effect of corroding divine sense. He could only see through it and couldn't see far. Suddenly, a sinister cold light stared at Yi Qinghan's back. Yi Qinghan abruptly turned around and slashed out, but there was nothing behind him. Yi Qinghan sucked in a breath of cold air. He didn't expect to encounter danger in the endless plains. Moreover, it was an unpredictable danger. Who is it? Come out. Yi Qinghan frowned and shouted. What? The cold wind whistled and echoed between the cliffs, emitting a horrifying sound. However, Tai Hua kept pointing at the depths, wanting Yi Qinghan to continue going deeper. Yi Qinghan's lips curled up. Now that his body and soul had both reached the Tao, no one in the endless plains could kill him unless the gods came in person. Boom. Step by step, Yi Qinghan's figure went deeper and deeper. There were countless withered bones inside. It was unknown how long they had been there. They had long decayed and would shatter with a step like withered wood. There were also some golden jade-like bones that had been preserved until now. They must have been a great emperor when they were alive, and a top existence among great emperors. The deeper he went, the thicker the fog became. A black figure stood in the depths, staring at Yi Qinghan and the great emperor's Dao fruit with saliva dripping from its mouth. Yi Qinghan didn't know anything and continued walking deeper. The black figure in the depths was dressed in a black robe. His body was intact, and his face was black. There was no indication of his identity, but the golden sun embroidery on his shoulder was somewhat familiar. The black-clothed man continued to move forward at a strange speed. He was extremely fast and didn't disturb the space at all. He appeared behind Yi Qinghan again. Yi Qinghan's brows twitched as he felt the existence behind him. However, he didn't turn around. Instead, he casually walked forward and waited for the man to approach him. He held the heavy berserk saber tightly in his hand, ready to unleash a terrifying attack at any time. Whooshed out when the black-clothed man was 100 miles away, he suddenly exploded. His 10 fingers had long become eerie white bones without flesh. They were even more terrifying than emperor weapons. They pierced through the sky and shook the Dao. He directly grabbed at Yi Qinghan. Boom! The void shattered. 100 miles was just a short distance for this kind of existence. In the blink of an eye, he was behind Yi Qinghan. The flames on Yi Qinghan's body suddenly flooded 1,000 meters. He gently stepped to the side and dodged the black-clothed man's attack. However, the emperor's robe on his body was actually torn apart by the energy. The powerful emperor's robe was even weaker than rotten wood in the hands of the black-clothed man. The black-clothed man missed and was surrounded by flames. He immediately let out a mournful roar and rushed into the distance, wanting to get away from Yi Qinghan. I want to see what you are. Yi Qinghan coldly snorted. He slashed out the 5 elements origin, imprisoning all the Dao laws within 1,000 meters. The flames burned the sky and all the bones on the ground turned into nothingness. However, the black-clothed man wasn't burned into nothingness by the flames. His body emitted a fiery aura as he took the initiative to absorb the 9th grade fire origin. The black-clothed man turned around. His face was full of death. His appearance couldn't be seen, but his pair of cold eyes could scare a boundary emperor to death. It was too terrifying. It was like a divine weapon that had the power to kill. A great emperor's corpse proved his Dao? Yi Qinghan was shocked. Even an existence like the Tianwu Great Emperor couldn't prove his Dao, but this great emperor's corpse could. Who are you? Yi Qinghan felt Tai was anger as if someone had stolen his treasure. He thought to himself, could it be that this corpse is Tai Wa's body, but it was taken over by an evil spirit formed by countless resentful spirits? Kill you all? Did you all? The black-clothed man wasn't afraid of the 9th grade fire origin at all. The 9th grade fire origin was just a supplement to him. This is impossible. Normal great emperors can't block a 9th grade fire origin, let alone a corpse that proved his Dao. The death aura on his body is so dense. He is most afraid of the fire origin, Yi Qinghan muttered. A great emperor that could absorb a 9th grade fire origin. His identity was obvious. The Golden Crow Transformation Dao, the Golden Bloodline, the Sacred Blood Dragon Emperor Great Emperor. The world's 3 most powerful great emperors regarding fire were these 3. Stan Huangtian? Yi Qinghan probed. The black-clothed man's body moved and had some reaction. Immediately, it attracted Yi Qinghan's attention. He couldn't help but explode. You are Stan Huangtian? Tai Wa is your Dao fruit? Yi Qinghan took Tai Wa and retreated slightly. He was a little vigilant. This body should be Stan Huangtian's, Stan Wuxie's ancestor. However, the soul now wasn't Stan Huangtian's. It probably wasn't a body that proved his Dao. It was a ghost that was born from countless great emperors and great emperors' souls devouring each other. The ghost forcefully took over Stan Huangtian's body. Stan Huangtian's body was extremely strong. It was probably not inferior to Yi Qinghan's body. Its combat strength was probably not inferior to Yi Qinghan's peak combat strength. In this ominous land of ghosts, it was enough to support a powerful soul to live for hundreds of thousands of years. Taiwa's face was filled with anger and malevolence. His majesty was monstrous. It was as if an emperor had been violated. His aura rushed into the clouds and caused the blood and qi of 10,000 spirits to explode. Yi Qinghan felt that his blood and qi was out of control. Golden Bloodline. The first generation of the Golden Bloodline had actually followed Yi Qinghan since he was young. Yi Qinghan actually didn't know about it. Even Stan Wuxia didn't know about it. Taiwa roared angrily. His body emitted golden light, and his golden hair fluttered. Once the Golden Bloodline was enraged, corpses would float for thousands of miles. It was unstoppable. Moreover, there were many ordinary Golden Bloodline Great Emperors who were enraged. They were the first generation of the Golden Bloodline Great Emperors, Stan Huangtian, who was known as the strongest war god in a million years. He killed his way into the depths of the Forbidden Land with one punch, beating the Forbidden Land until it didn't dare to make a sound. The old monsters in the depths could only use all the living beings in the endless plains to threaten him. Only then did Stan Huangtian forcefully plunder a few stalks of divine medicine and retreat. Stan Huangtian's soul didn't go through reincarnation. It brought along all the life essence and forcefully transformed into a human. It grew anew, hoping to return to its peak one day and live a second life. It strived to live a third life and even live a long life. He had done the first step and had successfully reincarnated and survived. However, Stan Huangtian had miscalculated and placed his body in the wrong place. He had actually placed it in such a ghostly land and was forcefully occupied by countless ghosts. Yuans, how dare you blaspheme the might of a god? Taiwa stretched out his small hand and grabbed at his main body through the air, wanting to force out the ghost and take back his body. Boom, boom, boom. Heaven and earth collapsed, and the great Tao of the eternal battlefield wailed. Under the control of the ghost, Stan Huangtian's body forcefully shattered Taiwa's attack. He wanted to counterattack and forcefully suppress the Tao fruit. After devouring the Tao fruit, he was the second Stan Huangtian. However, his soul was no longer his, and the one who took the initiative to take over his body was the ghost. Taiwa had yet to recover his memories and couldn't display the combat strength of Stan Huangtian when he was at his peak. He could only rely on his instincts to forcefully grab his body. Yi Qinghan's lips curled into a cold smile as he said hoarsely, "You ghostly creature, aren't you looking down on me too much? Today, I'll send you to the Western Paradise." Yi Qinghan stabbed into the ground again and formed a seal with his palms. The origin of the 5 elements was vast and mighty, and the origin of thunder and lightning filled the air. It could destroy all filth. The 5 elements form a heaven and earth cage. Everything within 1,000 miles is my domain. Within the domain, I'm a god. Boom, boom. The great Daos merged, and the laws and great Daos within 1,000 miles were forcefully conscripted by Yi Qinghan, suppressing everything and enveloping the ghost within the domain. Chapter 492. The 5 elements' heavenly dragon soared through the Aeon battlefield, shaking space and time. Within the domain, I am a god. The great emperor broke through mountains and rivers with a flick of his finger. The Aeon battlefield was the most powerful star in the endless plains. It was vast and boundless, hundreds of times larger than the current monarch domain. The star was stable, and even a great emperor would find it hard to destroy this place. The Aeon battlefield had withstood many calamities, and no one had entered the depths since the ancient times. No one had expected it to become a hidden refuge for some great emperors. The great emperor corpses were strewn everywhere. Most of the corpses had disappeared, but they weren't decayed. Instead, they were forcefully absorbed by experts. Those who could destroy the great emperor corpses were naturally great emperors. There wasn't just one great emperor in the depths. They hid here, and most of them had already reincarnated. However, their Tao fruits hadn't returned. Stan Huangtian's body was occupied, causing many great emperors' bodies to be forcefully devoured. However, there were still some top-notch existences hiding in the depths. That place was extremely dangerous, and even ghosts weren't willing to go near it. There were too many ominous things in the depths that could kill ghosts. Yi Qinghan controlled the periphery of the depths, forcefully suppressing Stan Huang Tian's body to buy time for Stan Huang Tian's soul Dao fruit. The ground collapsed, and the mountains and rivers cracked. This alarmed some top-notch experts. The creatures in the depths let out sorrowful roars that were deafening and soul-shattering. Yi Qinghan's veins bulged. He pressed down on Stan Huang Tian's golden body and shouted, "Taiwa, take out the soul in your body." Stan Huang Tian's body was too powerful, and the ghost in his body wasn't weak either. He could completely mobilize his body. Even in Yi Qinghan's domain, he could still resist and almost sent Yi Qinghan flying. Taiwa's iron fist turned into a claw and effortlessly pierced into the head. His small hand soared in the sea of consciousness and turned into a huge hand that covered the sky, grabbing at the ghost's soul. Taiwa ultimately contained the soul of two lives. In his first life, he was still Stan Huang Tian, the first-generation expert of the Golden Bloodline. He forcefully suppressed the ghost and grabbed it in his palm. With a squeeze, he pulled it out of his body. An ear-piercing high-pitched sound shook the mountains and rivers. The sinister ghost evolved into a golden body. It was somewhat similar to the Stan Imperial Sky of the past, but there were also some differences. Stan Huang Tian's body instantly quietened down. Now, he didn't have much flesh and blood left. He was like a skeleton. Yi Qinghan was no longer worried. He replaced Taiwa and caught the ghost. He realized that it was indeed very different from the ghost spirits of the Nine Nether. These ghosts were stronger, like real emperors. If not for Taiwa's help, Yi Qinghan would not have been able to easily suppress these things. How many more great emperors are there? Yi Qinghan frowned. These creatures had been hiding here for so many years. But you ignorant brat, how dare you attack this emperor? The ghost roared in anger, trying to intimidate Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan grabbed Phantom and scolded with a frown. It's good that you're rational. I don't care which ancestor emperor you are, or how many emperors you came from. Now that you're in my hands, you'd better behave yourself. Otherwise, don't blame me for being rude. You unfilial son who blasphemes your ancestors. On the day I attain my Tao, your ancestors had yet to be born. But the ghost still wanted to scare him, but it didn't expect to be burned by Yi Qinghan's supreme 9th-grade fire source. It immediately screamed in pain. In this life, I only revere heroes, but you're not one of them. I'll give you another chance. How many great emperors are there in the depths? Why are they gathered in the depths? Yi Qinghan scolded coldly. There are 7 or 8 of them in the depths. They can't enter the middle plane. They can only hide in the depths to shield themselves from the heavenly secrets. They either reincarnate or want to live a second generation. However, none of them appeared alive. Most of their bodies have been occupied. Phantom saw the murderous intent in Yi Qinghan's eyes and didn't dare to say anything more. It quickly explained. Since you've occupied the emperor's body, why haven't you appeared all these years? Why have you been hiding in the depths? Yi Qinghan asked sternly. Waiting for the chance to enter the middle plane. The ghost roared. Let go of me. I'm an ancestor who has fought for countless lives. I'm the fusion of several great emperors. Aren't you afraid of being punished by the heavens for blaspheming me like this? The ghost struggled, trying to break free from Yi Qinghan's control. At this moment, Taiwa gradually merged into Stan Huangtian's body. He, who was only left with bones, was once again full of vitality. His flesh and blood were regenerated, and his rich divine might was vast and mighty. The emperor's might far surpassed that of ordinary great emperors. You succeeded. You actually succeeded in living a second life. The ghost was shocked, and its face was full of disbelief. Stan Huangtian appeared, but Taiwa disappeared. Stan Huangtian's soul was reborn, and his body was reborn. His vitality was once again full of vitality. He was like a great emperor who had just attained his Tao, but he also contained the traces of time. He was powerful and restrained, and he was awe-inspiring without being angry. Let it go, Stan Huangtian said to Yi Qinghan in a low voice. Yi Qinghan slowly let go of the ghost, but he was exceptionally careful. He didn't understand the ghost, nor did he understand Stan Huangtian, but he could tell that the ghost and Stan Huangtian knew each other, and they didn't seem to have much hatred. As soon as the ghost left Yi Qinghan's control, it immediately looked at Yi Qinghan's body with a covetous look. Its greedy gaze was self-evident. Stan Huangtian looked at Yi Qinghan's vigilant expression and couldn't help but explain, "Fellow Taoist, thank you for taking care of me all these years and giving me a chance to be reborn. Now that my soul has recovered its memories, Tai Hua and I have become one. I'm Tai Hua, and Tai Hua is also me. The favor Tai Hua owes you is the favor I owe you. I will repay you greatly." Yi Qinghan shook his head. His fingertips moved slightly and he asked hoarsely, "I just want to know how many great emperors like you there are in the depths. Does it affect the endless plains?" "It doesn't affect them much. Whether they can be reborn a second time depends on luck. Once the soul Dao fruit can become one with the body, it will be born. If it can't, they will continue to be reincarnated until they succeed or are destroyed," Stan Huangtian said frankly. "What about these ghosts? And what exactly is in the depths? What kind of ominous thing is it?" Yi Qinghan frowned. The Aeon battlefield had become the only uncertain factor in the endless plains. He had to figure it out. "It's a god. The faith of humanity has gathered for countless years. It's like faith in me, but I've already been reincarnated. My soul is no longer here, so the power of faith produced a substitute. Using this substitute to absorb the faith of countless eras, it created a god. They have no previous life, no memories, and no emotions. They only know how to kill. They are as fast as ghosts and gods. Wherever they appear, something big will happen. That's why they are called ominous things," Stan Huangtian said in a low voice. Yi Qinghan nodded, suddenly understanding. So there was such a thing. For countless years, countless powerful existences appeared in the endless plains. They were revered by generations of people, and most of them were already dead. The power of faith created an existence to accept the faith, and the carrier became a god. In other words, they were ominous things. Ominous things mostly existed in filthy places like the Aeon battlefield. Only gods would be violent, representing ominous things. In fact, as long as humans didn't approach these gods, they wouldn't attack powerhouses. Once they did, even great emperors would die if they entered the depths. That was why humans became more and more mysterious. The depths of the Aeon battlefield became the most terrifying place. Some of these gods will become weaker and weaker due to the forgetfulness of humans. In the end, they will dissipate into nothingness. As for some gods, because the existences they replace are too powerful, countless living beings still believe in them, causing those gods to become stronger and stronger. In the end, they will become real gods and can even condense a divine spark. However, they will be affected by filthy things. These kinds of existences will eventually endanger the safety of living beings in the endless plains, Stan Huangtian reminded. Yi Qinghan frowned. These kinds of gods were born from nothingness. They had no feelings or emotions. They thought they were above everything and surpassed everything. It would be strange if they could protect all living beings. However, they were born from all living beings. It was their most fundamental faith. He couldn't stop it. These kinds of existences can only be created by an even stronger existence. Let him interfere with the faith of humanity, let him surpass the ancients, and gather all the faith. The gods can no longer accept the faith, and they will naturally become weaker and weaker. Finally, they will disappear in the long river of history, Stan Huangtian said in a low voice. Then what about these ghosts? Are they your gods? Yi Qinghan narrowed his eyes as he looked at the ghost in front of him. He realized that it wasn't afraid of flames and had pure yang energy. It was definitely not an ordinary ghost. It was very likely a god formed from the power of faith. Stan Huangtian's expression changed slightly. He didn't hide anything and nodded. Yes, they have used my body to survive until now. They have protected my body in disguise. In fact, many gods are using their bodies to make use of each other. This is something that the Arch knew before he reincarnated. Aren't you afraid that your reincarnation will fail and leave behind a root of disaster for the world? Yi Qinghan questioned coldly. Stan Huangtian remained silent. In order to reincarnate and live a second life, the Arch had a selfish side no matter how much he thought for the world. Everyone does so. If they don't, their bodies will be easily devoured. This is something that can't be helped, Stan Huangtian explained after a long time. Yi Qinghan sneered. This was just an excuse for himself. I will think of a way to destroy all the gods. Yi Qinghan said without hesitation. You will offend many thearchs and infuriate the gods. The consequences will be unimaginable. Now you can only wait. Wait for their second life to appear. Only your soul can suppress their corresponding gods. Wait for them to revive. Even without you saying anything, they will merge with their own gods and recover their combat strength to the peak. They will surpass their combat strength when they were alive and successfully enter the middle plane, Stan Huangtian warned coldly. In the depths, the ominous god left his body and came out with a terrifying aura. Stan Huangtian reached out and grabbed his own god, forcefully devouring it and merging it with himself. His aura kept rising and surpassed his combat strength when he was alive. Before he even used his combat strength, he could affect Yi Qinghan's vital energy and blood. Yi Qinghan frowned. This kind of expert was too strong. They had lived for countless years. Their combat experience and understanding of secret arts were far stronger than his. Let's retreat. As long as the human thearchs don't come close, the gods will not appear. Stan Huangtian was the first to retreat from the Aeon battlefield. Yi Qinghan took a deep look at the gods in the depths and turned to leave. Chapter 493. Yi Qinghan had retreated, and Taiwa had returned to his position. The two worlds had merged into one, and the endless plains had gained another emperor. The supreme golden bloodline had reappeared in the world. Countless living beings chose to believe in it, and the number of believers was almost on par with Yi Qinghan. Si Wuxia looked at the emperor in front of him in a daze, not knowing what to do. Stan Huangtian looked at the little guy and couldn't help but nod in satisfaction. It wasn't easy for a descendant to reach the Dao validation realm and have extraordinary combat strength. Wuxia, follow the great ancestor from now on. I really can't teach you anything about the golden bloodline. If you follow him, your future achievements won't lose to mine, Yi Qinghan said in a low voice. Master. Si Wuxia's expression changed slightly. He had followed Yi Qinghan since he was young, and the friendship in his heart wasn't any worse than Emperor Ye's. His dependence on Yi Qinghan surpassed everything else. As long as we have a master-disciple relationship, why do you care so much? Yi Qinghan's aura was majestic. In terms of emotions, he invested no less in these children than they did. Even if he didn't care much, he was always thinking about them. Taoist Yi, thank you for your deep sense of righteousness. I owe you a favor, and I'll definitely repay it in the future. Stan Huangtian was very satisfied with Yi Qinghan's performance. It wasn't easy to nurture a Dao validation disciple, and for Wuxia to become stronger, he didn't hesitate to let go. This state of mind surpassed many emperors. After thinking for a moment, he said in a low voice, "It's very difficult for this child to pass the tribulation in the endless plains. I'll bring him out of the endless plains in a few days and enter the middle plains to pass the tribulation. If you and I are fated, we'll meet again in the middle plains." Yi Qinghan nodded and said to Si Wuxia, "Learn well from your great ancestor. After all, he's the ancestor of the golden bloodline. Following him is 100 times better than following me. Master, disciple bids farewell. I beg Master to still accept me as your disciple." Tan Wuxia knelt in front of Yi Qinghan and kowtowed 3 times, crying like a child. Everyone found it hard to calm down. Si Wuxia had been living in the crazy sect for a long time. He was extremely domineering and also the most protective. He was deeply influenced by Yi Qinghan. Therefore, every time there was a disaster, he would stand at the front. Without him, many people in the crazy sect would have died in battle. Now that he had to leave, everyone was obviously reluctant. Eldest senior brother, Master only asked you to follow the great ancestor to cultivate. He didn't expel you from the sect. Boo-hoo! Zifei cried loudly, making everyone in a bad mood. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "I am still your master. Go, I will go to the middle realm to find you." Stan Wuxia stood up and respectfully retreated. He followed Stan Huangtian to the Stan Star. After bidding farewell to his family, he entered the forbidden area. Time flew by. A great cold descended. White snow fluttered, freezing everything within 1,000 miles. It had been a year since Yi Qinghan's return. Owl War Star was completely lively. Many heroes came from afar just to see the great emperor's elegance and to give their blessings for the great emperor's dual cultivation. The crazy sect held 6 groups of newbies' dual cultivation. Di Shang and Wang Shi were the witnesses. Lu Outyan and Shenong Qingyan, Jin Yan and Sikong Qingjun, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi, as well as Jian Chenxue, Nye Tian and Li Shang, Lin Wutian and Zifei. Nangong Xiaobei had hooked up with an emperor-level godly medicine to transform into human form. These days of dual cultivation had caused him to lose his sense of direction. The speed of his improvement was extremely fast, causing all the heroes to have the intention of engaging in dual cultivation with the godly medicine that had transformed into human form. Unfortunately, there were too many of them, and the number of people who had transformed into human form was pitifully few. Di Shang and Wang Shi's faces were full of smiles. Watching the juniors get married was the happiest thing. Di Longtian and many other juniors became flower boys. These years, Owl War Star had many more natives. There were hundreds of newborn boys and girls. Under the leadership of Di Longtian and Yi Mingxi, they became flower boys. It was a magnificent sight. On this day, the whole world was jubilant. The entire plain was pardoning criminals. 2 great emperors came personally to congratulate. After a whole month of chaos, those who could come to Owl Dragon region to congratulate were all peak existences. If one wanted to enter Owl War Star, one could not do so without some connections. After a month, Yi Qinghan announced the end of the dual cultivation ceremony. Only then did everyone choose to leave. Owl Warring Planet had become the headquarters of the Kuang sect. Many elders chose to cultivate in remote mountain ranges. Lu Outyen and the others returned to their own caves with their cultivation partners. Nye Tian also lived in seclusion on this small planet. This seemingly small planet hid hundreds of experts, all of whom were peak existences in the world. There were even a few great emperors. Yi Qinghan stayed on Owl War Star for 3 whole years, but he did not have a child. The stronger one's cultivation was, the harder it was to have a child. Nangong Qingyue and Muyu Tianxin also did not have a child after dual cultivation for so long. Wang Shi was crazy about having a grandson. Without a child, she would not allow Yi Qinghan to leave. This caused the advancement of experts to be delayed. Yi Qinghan looked at his 2 lovely wives, wanting to cry but having no tears. Let's work harder this year and make a child. I'm going to die soon. Yi Qinghan said helplessly. Doing this over the years would also consume a lot of energy. Not to mention that the 2 women in front of him were the best of the best. The energy they consumed was much more than ordinary women. Emperor Yi and Jian Chenxue also looked at each other. They had almost gone crazy in the past 3 years. Who didn't want to please their mother-in-law and let her have a grandson or granddaughter? However, they could not make a child. Why don't we find a miracle doctor and see if there's a way? Why is it so easy for little Tian and Fei? Is their cultivation too weak? Jian Chenxue frowned. If they could have a child now, it would not be a problem for them to completely give up on the advancement of Tao. It might be my problem. My cultivation is too strong. With the 5 elements gathered, the child will probably be heaven-defying. It will be very difficult for you to have a child. Yi Qinghan sighed. His situation was similar to Muyu Tianxin. Once his child was born, it would definitely gather the great Tao of yin and yang. It would definitely be heaven-defying. Even the heavens would not let them have a child. It's difficult to have a child with the 5 elements body now. If we wait until we condense the chaotic body, we will have even less chance. It seems like Granny's worries were correct. I need a child before you can go out and train. Before that, don't even think about going to the middle plane. Emperor Yi was firm in his belief. It was obviously impossible for a woman to not have a child. I want one too. Jian Chenxue echoed. Her belief was the most firm. Yi Qinghan looked up at the sky and did not know what to say. It was already so difficult to conceive a child. If both of them were pregnant, it would be fatal. On this day, Yi Qinghan found Gu Qingyu with trembling legs. He pulled him to a remote place and said in a low voice, "Brother, please help me go to the witch race and find a way to not have a child. If I can't have a child, I will die." Gu Qingyu smiled and nodded. He directly rushed into the depths of the universe. Now that he was about to advance, his speed was only slightly slower than Yi Qinghan's. Half a month later, Gu Qingyu returned from the witch race. He pulled Yi Qinghan over as if he was holding a treasure and secretly said, "I found a way for you. I heard from the witch race's natural race clan elder that if you want a child in your situation, you must give up the 5 elements body." Yi Qinghan frowned. How could he give up? Unless he scattered his cultivation and gave up his cultivation. "This is the way you found?" Yi Qinghan asked speechlessly. Gu Qingyu shrugged helplessly. This was the result of the witch race's final discussion. He obviously wanted to know how a real expert could make a woman more likely to get pregnant. No one wanted to be childless for the rest of their life. At this time, the divine bird put up a huge sign that said, "Specially cured infertility and other difficult diseases." It attracted the attention of the crazy sect. After Yi Qinghan knew about it, he almost jumped up in anger and patted his head. How could he forget about the divine bird? Whoosh! Yi Qinghan grabbed the divine bird and brought it directly to the center of the sea. He roared, "Bastard, why didn't you tell me earlier if you had a way?" The divine bird shrank its head and said helplessly, "You didn't ask me. Who asked you to think of me when no one else did?" Huff! Yi Qinghan's breathing quickened. He wanted nothing more than to drown the divine bird directly. Actually, this is very simple. If experts can't have children, then wouldn't the people of the 9 serenities and the middle plane all die out? The divine bird raised its eyebrows. Crack! Yi Qinghan clenched his fists, unable to control his aura. Do you want me to kneel down and beg you?" Yi Qinghan asked coldly. The divine bird had played Yi Qinghan for 3 years. It knew that he was going crazy, but it didn't say anything. Now that it saw that Yi Qinghan was on the verge of anger, it quickly said, "Actually, there are 2 ways. One is to use the love cupworm, and the other is to place most of your cultivation on another host and take it back when she gets pregnant." Yi Qinghan stared at the divine bird as a sinister smile appeared on his face. The divine bird's feathers bristled as it explained again, "The love cup worm can be controlled, especially at the emperor stage. You can forcibly use it to transfer a portion of your life essence into the bodies of 2 female hosts. Once the love cupworm combines, it can quickly impregnate a woman. The second way is to place the Emperor Dao fruit on Snow Mistress and impregnate her with Emperor Yi. Once the impregnation is successful, you can transfer the Emperor Dao fruit to Emperor Yi. You'll be able to impregnate Emperor Yi very quickly. How about that? I'm awesome, right? I'm omniscient." The divine bird smiled in a fawning manner. Yi Qinghan suppressed his anger and took a deep breath before asking coldly, "Which way has a higher success rate, better effects, and less danger?" The divine bird replied, "Of course, the first way is better. After all, the love cup worm can ignore your 5 elemental Dao body. You can transfer all of your excellent genes to the next generation of children. The child might be heaven-defying at birth. The second way is that most of your excellent genes won't be transferred to the child. It's very normal." Yi Qinghan glared at the divine bird before turning to leave. He charged towards the sorcerer tribe to find the love cup worm. After the divine bird escaped, it recklessly ran over to Lu Outyan, Mu Yu, Tian Qin, and the others to sell the method. It received a round of beating and was forcefully robbed of the method. Chapter 494. The middle plane of legends was vast and boundless. It was a vast and boundless continent. If a small plane were to crash into it, it wouldn't have any effect at all. A small sect could sweep through a small plane. In this place, the power of a great emperor was pale and powerless. The weakest cultivation base was at the divine martial realm. Even a child could be a quasi-emperor or even a great emperor. In this place, only God worshippers with Godhead could do whatever they wanted. The mythological plane was divided into 3 divine kingdoms and 36 prefectures. The prefectures of the 36 prefectures were all mid-level god worshippers. They were comparable to the 3 overlords of the 9 serenities. As for the god lords of the divine kingdoms, they were definitely not inferior to the 9 serenities lord. The 36 prefectures each had 3,000 counties. There were countless sects and clans under the counties. Only the sects with god worshippers could be ranked among the top. Until now, other than the 3 divine academies that could be compared to the 36 prefectures, there were no other clans that could be compared to the 36 prefectures. The 36 prefectures were equivalent to 36 powerful clans. They only nurtured the inner disciples of their clans. Even the side family disciples had to stand aside, not to mention the outsiders. Therefore, the true geniuses would break their heads to squeeze into the 3 divine academies. The 3 divine academies might be the clans with the most god worshippers other than the 3 divine kingdoms. The 3 divine kingdoms had to give face to them. Every teacher was a god worshipper. They gathered the god worshippers of various elements. The god worshippers of the 5 elements of metal, wood, water, fire, earth, space, thunder, time, and other laws. In addition to the god worshippers of the 6 paths, the god worshippers of the 3 divine kingdoms might not be as complete as them. The 3 divine academies claimed that there was no student that they couldn't teach. Dozens of years ago, Medusa, Lin Chenfeng, and the others entered the middle plane. Not long after they separated, Lin Chenfeng released Medusa's whereabouts to the middle plane's intelligence system. It attracted the attention of various clans. Many god worshippers appeared to surround and intercept Medusa. Divine light pierced through the void. Other than the god worshippers, venerable emperors couldn't fly. However, Medusa could fly against the 9 heavens. Sometimes she would appear thousands of miles away. Her white clothes were dyed red. Most of it was her own blood essence. She had been suffering all these years. She only wanted to escape, but the world wasn't willing to give up. Almost half of the dukes under the 36 prefectures had issued a warrant for Medusa's arrest. She had nowhere to run. On this day, Medusa escaped the pursuit of dozens of forces and turned into an ordinary girl. She closed her eyes and wore a hemp robe. She pretended to be a martial monarch and appeared outside a city in the divine country under the divine Mushan prefecture. There were countless strong cultivators in the city. It was as if there were thousands of races living side by side. It was not as serious as before. Outside God's country city, there were several powerful great emperors as guards, and sovereigns as guards. There was a picture of Medusa pasted on the city gate, and entry and exit were very strict. They had to be strictly checked, especially for beautiful female cultivators. It was inevitable that they would be taken advantage of, but they did not dare to voice their anger. Medusa walked all the way to the city gate with her eyes closed. She immediately aroused the guards' vigilance. They all took out their weapons and asked Medusa to open her eyes. Medusa's appearance had been forcibly changed. There was no resemblance between her and the picture. However, when one cultivated to such a level, one's appearance was only skin deep. It couldn't be used as a standard to find a person. However, there was one thing that couldn't be changed. It was a habit. When Medusa opened her eyes, she could petrify anyone under the god worshippers. Even venerable emperors couldn't escape death unless she could suppress it. However, at that time, her eyes were sapphire blue. It was easy to distinguish. Open your eyes. Look at the sky. Otherwise, don't blame us for attacking. The guard venerable emperors were frightened. He roared angrily. It was as if only by shouting louder could he cover up his panic. Medusa's body trembled slightly. After decades of running in a panic, the injuries on her body couldn't withstand the torment. She didn't want to run anymore. She opened her eyes slightly. They were empty. There were no pupils. Medusa didn't want to petrify people anymore. She didn't want to lose control. She didn't want to disappoint Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. She actually dug out her own eyes. However, the world still didn't want to let her go. Looking at her empty eye sockets, it was extremely frightening. The guard captain and the others couldn't help but exhale a mouthful of turbid air. They cursed loudly, so she's really blind. Fuck, what bad luck. Let's go quickly. Medusa hurriedly entered the city. She acted no different from an ordinary female cultivator. She avoided the strict inspection. As soon as she entered the city, Medusa quickly found a decent independent inn. She paid some top-grade spirit crystals as the fee and asked for an independent courtyard. Then, she returned to her room and asked for hot water. She took off her clothes. Her whole body was covered in bloody wounds. Most of them were caused by divine weapons and couldn't be healed at all. Medusa pursed her lips and endured. 2 streams of blood flowed out from her dark eye sockets. Taking off her robe, Medusa soaked herself in the warm water and wept softly. Gradually, she fell asleep. She had been on the run for several decades, and she had no way to rest. She could only sneak into the city to temporarily avoid being searched. The city was vast and boundless. There were many cultivators and many priests. If there wasn't anything important, no experts were allowed to enter the city to search. No matter how powerful a force was, they couldn't do it unless they had the permission of the Mushan estate. No one dared to fight in the city. Even the priests had to think twice. It wasn't a problem for hedonistic disciples of wealthy families to snatch female cultivators below the great emperor level. The city guards would turn a blind eye to it. No one dared to look for trouble and offend the wealthy families. This time, Medusa was especially at ease. She slept for a day and a night. On the afternoon of the 3rd day, Medusa faintly woke up. Her whole body was in so much pain that she frowned. The injuries caused by divine weapons couldn't be healed at all. She needed a long time to recuperate. Half a year after she escaped into the city, Stan Huangtian also brought Stan Wuxie into the city. Stan Huangtian could enter the Emperor realm anytime, but his battle prowess wasn't any weaker than the Emperor realm. His vitality was vigorous. No one dared to provoke him along the way. Stan Wuxie had just entered the myth realm and had already proven his Tao. The requirements of the great Tao here weren't as terrifying as in the endless realms. The lightning tribulation here wasn't too strong. Stan Huangtian suppressed Stan Wuxie's cultivation. He endured the great emperor tribulation at the boundary emperor realm, so Stan Wuxie's battle prowess didn't weaken. The two entered the gods' county. After asking around, they also chose the same inn. Coincidentally, they also entered Medusa's room. It was only a wall away from Medusa's room. Wuxie, you are still young. You have the chance to enter the 3 divine colleges. I want you to focus on cultivating with me in these 3 years and participate in the entrance exam of the Divine College's affiliated college. As long as you enter the affiliated college, you will have the chance to enter the Divine College. So these 3 years will be very difficult for you. You might not even be able to protect your life. Are you afraid? Stan Huangtian asked in a deep voice. Old ancestor, I'm not afraid. Within the same realm, other than Master and eldest senior sister, no one is a match for me. I have this confidence. Stan Wuxie said proudly. Stan Huangtian was indifferent. He was both happy and unhappy when Stan Wuxie said this. All the heroes in the world had gathered in the myth realm. There were countless experts, and no one could dominate. It was naturally good that Wuxie had the confidence to be invincible within the same realm. However, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi had become his fatal weakness. Facing these 2 people, Wuxie actually didn't have the courage to resist. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi may be strong, but they aren't strong to the extent that my golden bloodline can't resist. Don't boost the morale of others and diminish your own. Stan Huangtian reprimanded coldly. The corner of Stan Wuxie's mouth twitched. He said in a muffled voice, within the same realm, it is definitely Master and eldest senior sister. Old ancestor, don't underestimate them. Bastard! Stan Huangtian was furious. He felt that Stan Wuxie was a little useless and lacked the courage of the golden bloodline. Medusa, who was next door, was suddenly awakened. She didn't dare to use her divine sense to investigate, but she clearly heard Yi Qinghan and Emperor Ye's names. Her heart trembled. She wanted to go and find Stan Wuxie, but she didn't dare to. After all, the reward for her capture from the 36 prefectures was too high. No one could resist such temptation, including the priests. In this life, perhaps she only dared to believe in Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. In the next room, the voice suddenly became louder. Stan Huangtian was a little angry, but Stan Wuxie wasn't willing to give in. Stan Huangtian might be his old ancestor, and his teachings might be much stronger than Yi Qinghan's, but Yi Qinghan's position in his heart was unshakable. Stan Huangtian wanted to reverse the situation, but Stan Wuxie was like a stubborn bull that didn't know how to turn. He would rather be beaten than change his mind. Medusa listened to Stan Wuxie's firm tone and acknowledged Yi Qinghan's attitude. She smiled happily and lay on the bed to listen. She hoped to hear news about Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. At this moment, she couldn't wait for the two of them to enter the middle plane immediately. Sure enough, Stan Wuxie and Stan Huangtian talked about Yi Qinghan entering the mythical plane. Stan Huangtian was cold and ruthless. He said sternly, "I don't have a son like you. When Yi Qinghan comes to the mythical plane, follow him. I can't teach you." Stan Wuxie knelt on one knee and said in a deep voice, "Master taught me how to be a person and protected me as I grew up. In my heart, he is not only my master, but also my father. Senior sister protected me, taught me, and even hit me. It was all out of love. I didn't enjoy the love of my parents, but they treated me like my parents. I am very happy and content. Patriarch, please don't treat them with such an attitude. Your the Archdao fruit has been with him for nearly 1,000 years. Don't you have any feelings for them? I protected them willingly. Just like when someone insulted you, I would speak up or even attack. If the Patriarch can't accept it, I will leave now. I won't disturb you." Stan Huangtian clenched his iron fist and looked at Stan Wuxie coldly. He wanted to get angry, but he held it in. Now, he didn't feel any kinship to the other members of the Stan family. Only this golden bloodline made him feel the warmth of a family member. No matter how heartless he was, he wouldn't give up this last bit of kinship. The courtyard was cold and cheerless. It was just like the heartless world that only pursued those few godhoods. In the entire middle plane, most people were so heartless. In a huge family, blood brothers would kill each other for resources. Few people cared about kinship, love, and friendship. Chapter 495. In the boundless dimensions, Yi Qinghan obtained 4 emotion cup worms from the sorcerer race and handed over the wind mark and battle formula to the sorcerer race. He then returned to Owl War Star and used the emotion cup worms to successfully produce a child with Emperor Yi and Jian Chenxue. After everything was settled, Emperor Yi immediately started to refine the heavenly soul godhead to ensure that the child would be born with divinity. Emperor Ye's soul was strong and pure, so he could refine the godhead in the great emperor realm. However, Yi Qinghan couldn't do so as his soul was too evil. If he wanted to refine the pure godhead, he had to cultivate to the emperor realm. On Owl War Star, Emperor Yi was bathed in divine light as he merged with heaven and earth. His divine sense instantly covered the boundless dimensions. The godhead was known as the heavenly soul, so it was naturally a soul-type godhead. Emperor Ye's divine sense wrapped around the glowing godhead and merged it into his body. His soul and heart were also slowly fusing into the godhead. The godhead was a natural divine artifact with extremely strong defense. Normally, the souls of the god worshippers who possessed the godhead were never afraid of being attacked, especially the soul-type god worshippers. They could almost defeat all other god worshippers of the same level. Powerful souls could ignore the godhead and directly attack the soul within the godhead. Those who possessed the heavenly soul godhead were always terrifying and no one dared to offend them. Emperor Ye's consciousness was slowly refining the divine persona, allowing his heart to freely enter the divine persona. His emperor's force was transformed into divine power and stored within the divine persona, not within his sea of qi. At the level of a god's sacrifice, a person's fatal flaw would not be limited to their physical body and sea of qi. As long as the divine persona was not destroyed, they would generally not die. Day after day, Emperor Yi cultivated for a total of 8 months. The child was also slowly growing and actively absorbing the divinity. The 5 elements were abnormally rich, changing Emperor Ye's physique. The child and Emperor Yi influenced each other and strengthened each other. Once the child was born, it would definitely defy the heavens. Because of the emotion cup worm, Jian Chenxue had taken away a lot of Yi Qinghan's life essence to make up for what she had lost over the years. Yi Qinghan had even taken out countless divine herbs to nourish her, allowing her cultivation to improve rapidly. In just 8 months, she was already able to draw on the Great Emperor Tribulation. If it wasn't for Yi Qinghan being worried that the Thunder Tribulation would harm the child and purposely suppressing Jian Chenxue, the Great Emperor Tribulation would have already descended. On Owl War Planet, because of Emperor Yi, the newborns all had some divinity in them. Their talents were astonishing, and they had opened up their chi seas at birth. Some freaks had even reached the blood ignition realm, causing a commotion. Yi Qinghan had set up an outer sect of the Kuang sect to train these children. In terms of talent, Zifei's child was the most monstrous. He had reached the Grotto Heaven realm at birth and was born with a sword, known as the Heavenly Sword Body. He comprehended the sword Dao faster than Lin Wutian and reached the Dao Sovereign Realm 3 years after birth. He was then accepted by Gu Qingyu as his last disciple. In the 9th month of Emperor Ye's pregnancy, divine light filled the heavenly river, and the heavenly Dao of the endless plains cheered. It seemed to be evolving, driving the great Dao of the stars to become abnormally stable. Owl War Planet was expanding endlessly, showing signs of evolving into a huge star. The 9 heavens divine dragon and divine phoenix coiled up and turned into a ray of divine light that rushed into Emperor Ye's body. A heavenly melody appeared in every corner of the endless plains, and the world was shocked. Emperor Ye's ascension to the divine shrine caused a huge change in the world. The heavenly Dao's endurance seemed to have returned to the past, and it could no longer withstand only one great emperor. The Thunder Tribulation descended at the same time, and there were at least 10 of them. The elites of the endless plains were facing the tribulation at the same time. Gu Qingyu, Nye Tian, Xia Ziluo Yimingshi, Zi Tian, Muyu, Tianchen, Nangong Qingyue, Shirgu, Yin Yunbei, Yi Linshan, Lin Wutian, and Zifei are all rushed into the chaos, preparing to face the Great Emperor Tribulation. In the depths of the chaos, Zaken, who had been hiding, also sneaked in and began to face the tribulation. Kanyang was the first to face the tribulation, and he quickly suppressed the Great Emperor Tribulation. After he succeeded, he immediately turned and left, no longer staying in the endless plains. Yang Shaohan, Yi Feng, and the other elites who rose later defeated the Thunder Tribulation and entered the Great Emperor realm, but they didn't choose to leave the endless plains. After all, the Middle Plains weren't that simple. Great emperors could die at any time if they entered the Middle Plains. Yi Qinghan didn't have time to care about them. Emperor Yi and Jian Chenxue could give birth to a child at any time, and the slightest mistake could lead to a big mistake. Moreover, Jian Chenxue's Thunder Tribulation couldn't be suppressed anymore. Thunder clouds rolled in the sky above Owl War Planet, and Yi Qinghan flew into the sky and scattered the Thunder Tribulation. Divine light bathed Jian Chenxue, purifying her body, cleansing her mortal body, and changing the constitution of the baby in her womb. Great emperors sprung up like bamboo shoots after a rain. Perhaps this was the heavenly Dao's promotion, and the world was pardoned. Otherwise, it was impossible for so many great emperors to be born at the same time. All of this was due to Emperor Ye's success in becoming a god. With a wave of his hand, yin and yang reversed, and he could communicate with the heavenly Dao in all things. He opened his eyes slightly, and he could see through the gods in the depths of the eternal battlefield. He stretched out his hand and directly refined the power of faith for his own use. Emperor Ye's cultivation reached the heavens in a single step, and he surpassed Yi Qinghan by far, far, far too much. In the depths of the 18th level of the 9 underworlds, the old man opened his eyes and smiled. He said with a hoarse voice, "Indeed, you have the heart of a child. Refining a godhead in the Great Emperor realm, and it's a heavenly soul godhead at that. It's rare to see such a thing in a million years, and it's unprecedented. I'm really looking forward to seeing if you can walk on the path of true immortality." The 9 underworlds master's divine sense saw everything through the golden tokens he gave to Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. However, he couldn't enter such a small plane. Otherwise, with his cultivation, he could directly cause the endless plains to explode. He was different from Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi was a native god. The stronger Emperor Yi was, the more the heavenly Tao would evolve. The stronger the heavenly Tao was, the faster Emperor Yi's growth would be. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. Now that Emperor Yi had become a god, things were different. Now that he could enter the middle plane, he could quickly conquer mountains and rivers and build cities. Even the prefecture lords would welcome Emperor Yi's arrival. There weren't as many god shrines as people thought. Every time a god was born, or a god that came out from a small plane, they would be fought over by the various prefecture lords. Emperor Yi might even attract the 3 great god academies to fight over him. With his white hair fluttering in the wind, Emperor Yi bathed in the divine light. His child could be born at any time. Yi Qinghan ordered the midwife to be on standby while he paced around outside the door excitedly. This was considered an old child. After all, he was already more than 1,000 years old. Most of the great emperors had gathered on Owl War Star. They were also waiting for the birth of their children to give their blessings. After all, these 2 children would be heaven-defying in the future. Divine Lotus Empress arrived with a smile and bestowed her life essence. Emperor Yi and Jian Chenxue both received a part of it. This was the life essence of millions of years of cultivation. It contained boundless vitality and was not any weaker than the wood origin. It might even surpass the wood origin. What at a few crisp cries broke the silence in the hall. Yi Qinghan's heart almost jumped out of his chest. Then the cries stopped, which made him even more worried. But soon, the midwife rushed out and said excitedly, "Congratulations, God. The 2 madams have given birth to children at the same time. The eldest madam gave birth to twins of a boy and a girl of a boy. He is bathed in the divine light and has a smile on his face. He must be a god." Everyone respectfully addressed the first madam and young madam only according to their age, not their seniority. Jian Chenxue did look older than Renhuang Yi and was much more mature. Moreover, she was a kind person, unlike Renhuang Yi, who was so holy that people only dared to look at him from afar. Therefore, many people called her the first madam. Jian Chenxue gave birth to twins of a boy and a girl of a girl. Yi Qinghan was overjoyed. As for Emperor Ye's children, he didn't think it was strange that they could attain Tao at birth. After all, they were the children of the god shrines. Yi Qinghan rushed in and saw Wang Shi carrying 1 child in each hand. She wished she could grow a 3rd hand to carry the other child as well. Her face was full of joy and happiness. Yi Qinghan carried the girl with a doting look. He looked at the 2 children in Wang Shi's hands. Emperor Ye's child seemed to be a little special. He looked at Yi Qinghan with a strange smile on his face, which made Yi Qinghan's hair stand. "Daddy." The child opened his mouth and called out, "Daddy." Yi Qinghan was so scared that he almost threw his daughter out. Wang Shi's hand trembled and she threw him out. However, the child floated in the air and didn't fall. It was a little shocking that he could control the 5 elements at birth. "Fortunately, I am a genius. Otherwise, I would have died prematurely," the child said with a serious face. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. He clenched his fist and roared, "Divine bird, get out here. Is this the prenatal education you gave him?" In the past 10 months, the divine bird gave the child prenatal education and taught him wisdom. It nagged in Emperor Yi and Jian Chenxue's stomachs all day long. It actually became a chatterbox and narcissist. The divine bird trembled and ran away. It even shouted, "This isn't my credit. It's your son's talent. It really has nothing to do with me. Stupid bird, you're so naggy. You annoyed me to death in my mother's stomach. I really wanted to come out and beat you to death," the child said again. Everyone looked at each other. Was this really a newborn child? Wasn't he the reincarnation of a mighty person? The divine bird ran away, leaving Yi Qinghan to stare at the floating child. He didn't know what name to give him. "Hello, everyone. My name is Yi Chentian. You can call me Chentian War God." The newborn child not only gave himself a name, but he was also perversely narcissistic. Yi Qinghan looked at Yi Chentian and rolled his eyes. He actually felt like he was going to faint. "One divine bird is enough for me to serve. Now, there's an even more difficult one." Yi Qinghan felt a sense of despair. This child had gained intelligence when he was in Emperor Ye's stomach. After being nagged by the divine bird, he understood more than anyone else. He couldn't be judged by common sense at all. Yi Qinghan looked at the baby girl in his arms and rejoiced. Fortunately, there are 2 more normal ones. Otherwise, I wouldn't have a good life. This bird is so annoying. The girl widened her eyes. A sly look appeared on her young face. Her voice was crisp and pleasant, like an oriole flying out of a valley. Yi Qinghan took a deep breath. His whole body trembled. At this moment, he hated the divine bird. Did this thing lead his 2 sons and 1 daughter astray? This is so fun. They're really talented. They can speak at birth. Moreover, it's so natural. I can't even tell what their cultivation is. Wang Shi laughed. Chapter 496. Time flew by. Emperor Yi had been in seclusion for 3 years. He had completely stabilized his godhood. Once he came out, his white robe fluttered in the wind. He looked even more charming. Sometimes, he would restrain his aura and turn into a mortal. No one could tell that he had godhood. Yichen Tian, Tiyun, and virtual god Yi were Yi Qinghan's 3 children. They were already 3 years old, but no one dared to treat them as 3-year-olds, especially Yichen Tian. This little guy really had the aura of a heavenly king. He could control the 5 elements with a wave of his hand, break the void with a snap of his finger, and control the laws of the Great Path. His catchphrase was, "Do you think I'm a 3-year-old kid?" Virtual god Yi had inherited Yi Qinghan's peerless battle aura. He was introverted and was the only obedient child. Yi Yun had inherited Jian Chenshue's scarlet snow body. She was extremely powerful. Together with Yi Chentian and Lin Wutian's son, Lin Shukong, they were known as the 3 little devils. Watching the children and the heroes of the insane sect grow up step by step, Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi had a discussion. They decided that the 2 of them would enter the middle plane to explore first. They would first take down a city for the insane sect to develop and find Medusa's whereabouts. For 3 years, Stan Huangtian had been training Stan Wuxie in this inn. Occasionally, he would go out to adventure and earn top-grade spirit crystals to provide them with a place to cultivate. Stan Wuxie was preparing for the affiliated school of Tian Ke Theological College, God's College. In order to enter any of the 3 major seminaries, one had to be admitted to the local affiliated school. Every 10 years, there were 10 grades in total. Every 10 years, the 3 seminaries would select the true elites from the affiliated schools and nurture them. The 3 major colleges were in a state of competition, and the 3 divine kingdoms were in a state of hostility. Everyone wanted to cultivate the best talents. Tian Ke Theological College, Desolate God College, and Broken Sky College were known as the 3 major colleges. They joined forces with Sanqing Divine Kingdom, Saint Dragon Divine Kingdom, and Broken Martial Divine Kingdom respectively. They used and supported each other to fight against other opponents. Medusa and Stan Wuxie were in God's County, Mushan residence in Tian Ke Divine Kingdom. Medusa had disappeared from the mythical plane for 3 years. The search for her had not weakened, but the number of people searching for her had decreased. No one wanted to waste time on her. However, the number of lesser gods chasing after Medusa was on the rise. This was because killing Medusa would give them the reward of a mid-level deity's divine core. This was the fastest way to become a mid-level deity. Medusa had been hiding in the courtyard for 3 years. Even when Stan Huangtian left, leaving Stan Wuxie alone, she didn't dare to look for him. The mid-god divinity was too important. Even Stan Huangtian was tempted. He once told Wuxie frankly that if he could kill Medusa in this life, he would be able to avoid many detours. Wuxie did not reply. Medusa did not dare to trust him. On this day, a group of strong men suddenly came to the deity's county. They were led by 3 low-level deity priests and 18 venerable sovereigns. They also brought an order from the divine Mushan prefecture, asking the deity's county's princess, Shen Kongshao, to cooperate with them in searching the city for Medusa's whereabouts. The deity's county's 3,000 divine protectors obeyed the order and guarded the city gate. The 3 divine protectors and Shen Kongshao personally led people to search the surrounding residences and inns. In Yuejun Inn, Medusa's expression changed slightly. Even if she changed her appearance, it was impossible for her to escape the detection of the divine protectors. In the room next door, Stan Huangtian had already left the courtyard for more than a month. Only Si Wuxia was left in seclusion to cultivate. In 3 years he had cultivated all the Golden Bloodline's secret techniques to great success. He was definitely a supreme existence in the Great Emperor realm. He was close to Stan Huangtian's battle power. It was impossible for the mobilization of troops outside not to alert him. Thinking about how close Yi Qinghan and Medusa were, he couldn't help but sigh. Shen Kongshao led the troops to surround Yuejun Inn. They searched every room and soon found Medusa's courtyard. At this moment, Medusa appeared in front of Si Wuxia. She said hoarsely, "Wuxia, for your master's sake, help me this once." Medusa? Si Wuxia was shocked. He didn't expect this woman to live beside him. "Open the door." With a furious shout, the leader of the divine protectors forced the door open and wanted to attack the courtyard. Medusa's courtyard had already been kicked open. They were now directly at Si Wuxia's courtyard. "Go into the room. I will deal with it." Si Wuxia didn't hesitate. He emitted a powerful bloodline power and covered Medusa's aura. Medusa had just entered the room when the outer door was forced open. Si Wuxia's blood qi and killing intent soared. He glared at the divine protectors. The golden bloodline instantly affected the blood qi of a great emperor. The divine protectors were frightened and quickly retreated. Shen Kongshao was shocked by Si Wuxia's aura. He suddenly appeared outside the courtyard. Their eyes met. Si Wuxia didn't show any fear. However, he still bowed slightly and said respectfully, "Junior Si Wuxia didn't know that the divine protectors were here. Please forgive me for offending you. What is your name?" "Or you?" Shen Kongshao suddenly appreciated talent and didn't make things difficult for Si Wuxia. "Junior Si Wuxia is from a small plane. I just arrived 3 years ago." Si Wuxia said honestly. "Small plane?" Shen Kongxiao's eyes lit up. Big factions liked people like this who didn't have a foundation. With a little training, they would become loyal. If he could be trained into a true elite and enter the divine college, his status would also rise. "Where is your family's elder?" Shen Kongshao suppressed his excitement. Si Wuxia was very young and had exceptional battle power. He was worth training. "My family's great ancestor went out to train and will only be back in a few days. May I know the reason for your arrival? Could it be that my family's great ancestor offended you all?" Si Wuxia's blood qi was still at its peak. Even the divine protectors couldn't discover that there was someone else in the room. "No, we are just looking for a criminal." "Wuxia, don't worry." Shen Kongshao pretended to be dignified and said in a low voice, "Since it is only your family's great ancestor, are you all willing to become experts under me? I am interested in training you a little." Si Wuxia pretended that his eyes lit up. He then bowed and said, "I cannot make the decision on this matter. I need the great ancestor to return before I can answer you. If the great ancestor agrees, I am naturally willing to serve the divine protectors." Shen Kongxiao's face darkened slightly, but he didn't take it to heart. Small planes emphasized filial piety and respect for the elders. Si Wuxia valued the great ancestor's intentions. If they were to follow him sincerely, their loyalty in the future would naturally not be weak. "All right, I will stay in the county god residence in the gods region. When your family's great ancestor returns, ask him to bring you to see me." Shen Kongshao smiled slightly. He then waved his hand to signal the divine protectors beside him. He said, "There is no need to check this house. Move on to the next one." The divine protectors looked at Si Wuxia enviously. They then turned and left. Si Wuxia closed the door again and set up a barrier. He then exhaled a mouthful of turbid air. Outside the house, the divine protectors looked at Shen Kongshao respectfully. He bowed and said, "County God, there is something wrong with that kid. From the moment you appeared until the end, he didn't let down his guard." Shen Kongshao raised his eyebrows and said coldly, "He is a child from a small plane who has not seen the world. His door was suddenly kicked open by you guys. How can he not be vigilant?" "But..." The divine protectors still wanted to say something but was interrupted by Shen Kongshao. But what? I have taken a fancy to him and want to take him in as a disciple. Can't you see him doing well? Or do you really think that there is something wrong with him? Shen Kongshao asked coldly. The divine protectors bowed and said that they didn't dare. If they offended the divine protectors, they wouldn't even know how they died. Get someone to stand guard outside the inn. Don't let him find out. I am not afraid that there is something wrong with him. I am only afraid that he is not interested in acknowledging me as his master and let a genius disciple escape. Shen Kongshao shook his head. He didn't take Si Wuxia's vigilance to heart. He had taken a fancy to Si Wuxia's talent and felt that his every move was reasonable. He even felt that Si Wuxia was cautious and neither servile nor overbearing. The divine protectors didn't dare to say anything more. They also didn't dare to find trouble with Si Wuxia. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to find out anything. If the divine protectors found out about this, their days of bad luck would be ahead of them. It wasn't until the afternoon that Shen Kongshao left the inn with his men. They searched inside and out and only left Si Wuxia's courtyard. They didn't expect Medusa to be hiding inside. Si Wuxia looked at Medusa's dark eye sockets and frowned. He clenched his fists tightly. He could imagine how angry Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi would be if they saw Medusa now. Senior, you live next door? Si Wuxia frowned. It had been 3 years and he didn't realize it. Yes, I came earlier than you guys. Medusa nodded slightly and said softly. Si Wuxia's expression changed slightly. He said with a hoarse voice, then you should know the great ancestor's attitude towards you. I advise you to leave this place. If he finds out, I may not be able to stop his will. Where can I escape to? My godhead was almost shattered. It will take a few hundred years to recover. If I leave the city now, I will be courting death. Medusa was helpless. She hated Lin Chenfeng to the core. If it wasn't for him, her return wouldn't have alarmed the intermediate god shrine and even the upper-level god shrine. She wouldn't have attracted the attention of a prefecture master's general and almost been killed. There was a moment of silence in the room. Medusa's last hope was on Si Wuxia. He was the only one who could help her now. When will your master come up? Medusa asked softly. I don't know. It should be in 1 or 2 years, Si Wuxia replied. Medusa thought for a moment. It wasn't safe to follow anyone now. She might even bring trouble to the other party. Endless trouble. Unless the 3 holy kingdoms or the God College accepted her, she had nowhere to go. If Yi Qinghan came up, she definitely couldn't let him see her in such a sorry state. If your master and eldest senior sister come up, don't tell them that you saw me, Medusa said seriously. Si Wuxia nodded. He knew that Medusa was a bomb that could blow him into pieces at any time. Yi Qinghan was no exception. He obviously didn't want his master and eldest senior sister to be implicated. I'll go back to my room first. I'll leave after the commotion dies down. You have to be careful too. Don't trust the gods of the mythological plane. They don't have true feelings. They might even help you cultivate to the level of a god and then forcefully take away your divinity. This is also a disguised form of furnace top. Understand? Si Wuxia's heart sank. He didn't expect the god shrine to be so vicious. Medusa walked towards the door and was about to leave when someone suddenly walked in. He didn't disturb the array. Looking closely, it was Si Huangtian. Chapter 497. Middle Plain, Yuejun Inn. Stan Huangtian and Medusa looked at each other. Sparks flew, and the hostile aura was very obvious. Medusa's empty eyes flashed with a dark light, which looked very terrifying. Medusa took a step back, hoping that Stan Huangtian would not recognize her. Who are you? Stan Huangtian blocked the door and asked coldly. Medusa replied in a low voice, I'm Yi Xian. I live next door and came to visit. Stan Wuxia's heart sank, and he quickly said, Great ancestor, she does live next door and also comes from a small plane. She's a senior who rose up recently and has some relationship with master. After knowing that I live next door, she came to give me some advice. It was fine if Wuxia did not interrupt, but the moment he spoke, Stan Huangtian was immediately alert. His Dao fruit had been following Yi Qinghan, so how could he not know that there was no one called Yi Xian among the powerhouses who rose up recently? Moreover, Medusa's strength could be seen at a glance by a true powerhouse. No matter how she disguised herself, that aura that could shatter heaven and earth would not change. Stan Huangtian had been fighting for so many years, so he had a special sense of this kind of existence. Stan Huangtian's lips curled up, but he did not expose her. He said indifferently, "So you're also from the endless plains. This old man has been disrespectful. I've actually never heard of your name." Medusa bowed and replied, "I rarely go out and communicate with people. It's normal that Senior has not heard of my name. However, the first-generation powerhouse of the Golden Bloodline is known throughout the endless plains. Back then, you killed your way into the Forbidden Land alone and fought with all the heroes. The Forbidden Land did not dare to make a sound. I admire you very much." The atmosphere in the courtyard was very strange. The three of them formed a triangle and defended against each other. Even Stan Huangtian and Wuxia showed signs of confrontation. "Wuxia, what secret technique did Daoist Yi teach you? Let me take a look," Stan Huangtian said in a low voice. Stan Huangtian was not sure if the person in front of him was Medusa, so he did not dare to act rashly. He could only verify it step by step. He knew the origin of the secret techniques of the endless plains. As long as he had the secret technique as a comparison, Stan Huangtian could confirm the origin of this so-called Yi Xian. "Old ancestor, Senior Yi didn't give me pointers on secret techniques. Instead, he told me about his experience in traveling the mythological plains." Si Wuxia said in a low voice. He could feel the murderous intent in the great ancestor's heart. His qi and blood began to surge, and he was in a very bad mood. "Oh, what experience do you have? Tell me about it," Stan Huangtian asked. In the small plain, Yi Qinghan gave some instructions to Emperor Yi and left the three little fellows in the endless plain. He didn't even bring Gu Qingyu along, only a few of his spiritual pets and spiritual plants. The two of them then entered the mythical plane. Divine qi permeated the air, causing one's body and mind to feel joyful. As soon as Yi Qinghan and Renhuang Yi entered the realm, they could feel a special spiritual energy rushing into their bodies. Their emperor qi was instantly filled to the brim. Renhuang Ye's divine persona even took the initiative to absorb the spiritual energy, transforming it into divine power and storing it within his divine persona. The two of them strolled amidst the mountains and rivers. The vicious birds in the sky would sometimes crush the mountains and sometimes swoop down to the ground. The experts were all very careful, fearing that they would kill them with a single swoop. These vicious birds were extremely terrifying. Even great emperors would find it hard to escape death if they were caught. A native of the Boundary Emperor realm was swept away by a huge divine eagle. His physical body was torn apart, and his blood stained the ground. Two god-slaying eagles soared into the sky to capture their prey. The star-twining vine even stretched out a vine that was 10,000 meters long and swept over a ferocious beast in an instant, swallowing it until there was nothing left of it. Now that all the spiritual pets had entered the great emperor realm, and the star-twining vine had reached the fourth stage, which was the human's emperor realm. Now, other than Emperor Yi, even Yi Qinghan would find it very difficult to deal with it. The life forms here had exceptionally vigorous vital energy and had a little divinity. They were even more ferocious, but most of them didn't have high intelligence. The multicolored snake also rushed out and started a feast. With the star-twining vine leading the way, as long as they didn't encounter any creatures of the divine shrine level, they would definitely be safe. They killed their way out, leaving corpses all along the way. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi smiled and followed behind. The two of them held hands and enjoyed life in the mythological plane. So this is the mythological plane. What a stable spatial law. Those below the divine shrine level can't fly, and even great emperors can't move the mountains. Emperor Yi was excited. Only now did he realize how vast the real universe was. The mountains and forests stretched as far as the eye could see. They were filled with an aura of vicissitudes, and the growth rings of time were reflected on them. Most of them were barren plains without any cities. Ferocious beasts ran amok and were everywhere. Powerful humans couldn't hunt their prey alive if they didn't form groups. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi walked hand in hand as if they were taking a stroll in a fairyland. They were immortal children, and people couldn't reach them. Many groups passed by Yi Qinghan, but they didn't dare to tease Emperor Yi. They just walked with their heads down. Two young people who looked like they were only in the Great Emperor realm dared to walk in such an environment without being stained by snow. It was impossible for them to do so without some real ability. There were many people who kept a low profile in the mythological plane. Some old beggar could be a middle-level divine shrine, or even a super old monster who had been in seclusion for a long time. It was fine to offend a playboy, but to offend such an existence, even a huge family could be wiped out in an instant. A group of about 12 or 13 people came to greet them. There were men and women, old and young. It should be a small group. Their cultivation levels were uneven. Some were at the peak of the sovereign realm, while the weakest were at the boundary emperor realm. They were all dressed uniformly and looked very capable. The leader was a white-haired old man who was at the sovereign realm. He was very kind. When he saw Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi, he took the initiative to greet them. Young people, it's going to be night soon. If you don't hurry into the city, it will be very dangerous. Yi Qinghan smiled and replied, Sir, may I ask where the nearest city is? How long will it be before we can move? What a good-looking brother and sister. A young girl who had just broken through to the Great Emperor realm looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi in amazement and speechlessness. Several men were also looking at Emperor Yi with infatuation. Emperor Yi's charm was always unconsciously attracting men. Ordinary people couldn't resist her at all. Cough cough. The old man was in a trance and almost fell into Emperor Yi's bright eyes. After all, he was an old man and had seen far more than ordinary people. After experiencing life and death, he could still withstand Emperor Yi's unconscious charm. After he came to his senses, he said, This is the territory of the Gods County. The nearest small city is called Tianyun City. It's about 2 or 3 days' journey from here. If it's the main city, I'm afraid it'll take half a month to get there. Then how do you rest? Emperor Yi asked curiously. This was a wasteland with a radius of millions of miles, and they couldn't fly. Even a great emperor would need 3 to 5 days to reach the next small city. It was definitely not safe for these people to be here at night. After all, there was only one sovereign realm expert and 3 peak great emperors. 5 of them had just broken through to the great emperor realm, and the rest were either great emperors or boundary emperors. If they were surrounded by ferocious beasts, they would definitely die. Sister, we have dragon dung. This thing is worth a few hundred top-grade spirit crystals. With it, we can sprinkle it around us at night to deter the ferocious beasts and we can sleep in peace, the young girl said as if she was presenting a treasure. The dragon dung that the young girl was talking about wasn't the dung of a real divine dragon. If it was, it wouldn't be sold for just a few hundred top-grade spirit crystals. Even divine crystals might not be enough to exchange for it. The dragon dung that she was talking about was a hybrid product of dragons. The experts in the mythological dimension were used to calling them dragons, but they were actually sub-dragons. If the 2 of you don't mind, you can enter the city with us. We just came back from hunting and are about to enter the city to sell some ferocious beasts' demon cores, hides, and bones. A young man didn't dare to look directly at Emperor Yi, but he wanted to curry favor with him, so he said directly. Although the old man was kind, he didn't want to live with Yi Qinghan and these 2 people of unknown origins. After all, they now had a large amount of prey that was worth tens of thousands of top-grade spirit crystals. There were also some rare divine herbs that were worth at least 100,000 crystals. If they were to meet with bandits, they wouldn't have the strength to resist at all. The old man glared fiercely at the young man and said, Young man, I can sell you some dragon dung, but we can't live together. Please forgive us. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi smiled. Seeing the old man so vigilant, they guessed that this mythological dimension wasn't an easy place. It must be run amok with bandits and beast tides happening from time to time. The distrust between humans was very serious. Thank you very much, old mister. Yi Qinghan handed over 500 top-grade spirit crystals and took back some diluted dragon dung. Although they didn't need it at all, they still accepted the goodwill of this group of people. My friends, can I ask you a question? Yi Qinghan stared at everyone and asked indifferently. My friends, please ask. If we know, we will definitely tell you. The old man nodded and said, everyone often travels around this area. Have you ever seen a middle-aged man and a young man around 17 or 18 years old passing by here? The two of them have long golden hair, and their vitality is very vigorous. When they are angry, they can control the vitality of others. It's very easy to recognize them. Yi Qinghan asked. Everyone shook their heads. This mythological dimension was really too vast. Moreover, there were countless cultivators coming and going. Who would care about others? Yi Qinghan didn't mind. In a world like this, it was very difficult to find people, especially when there was a gap of a few years between the time they entered the middle dimension. Yi Qinghan couldn't be sure if the two of them were still in the God's County. It's okay. We can slowly search. We will find them eventually. Emperor Yi consoled. Yi Qinghan nodded and followed this group of people for about a few thousand miles. The sky gradually darkened. The few divine beasts went wild for a day. They were full and gradually came back. Yi Qinghan didn't want to scare these people and didn't let them come close. Instead, he kept a distance of a few hundred miles. Along the way, they chatted a lot. The old man actually agreed to stay with Yi Qinghan and the others. The group of people found a valley and scattered a large amount of dragon dung. They started to sing and dance, lighting a fire to roast the meat of the ferocious beasts. Night fell, and the moonlight was like water. The ferocious roars of the heavenly wolves were deafening and made people shudder. Chapter 498. At night, the moonlight was like water. A heavenly wolf stood at the peak of a mountain, looking up at the full moon and absorbing its essence. Its huge body could be seen clearly within 1,000 miles. The wind shook the giant ancient trees, and a dark cloud covered the moonlight. The heavenly wolf spread its wings and flew into the void. What a hurried sound pierced through the air and spread thousands of miles. The group of people was shocked and turned pale. Although this kind of heavenly wolf was not a god, it could kill ordinary venerable sovereigns in a second. It could swallow a dozen venerable sovereigns in one gulp. Some people called it the wolf god. Many natives used the heavenly wolf as their totem. There were not many heavenly wolves. There were probably less than 10,000 of them in the entire mythical plane. The strongest heavenly wolf was at the level of a god. It was a divinity condensed from pure faith, and its understanding of divinity had reached the peak. It was definitely the strongest among the lesser gods, so no god dared to attack the heavenly wolf race. The heavenly wolf's roar was deadly silent. More than 10 smaller heavenly wolves gathered and began to search for food. Heavenly wolves like to eat powerful humans and beasts. Their ability to sense humans surpassed everything else. No matter how good Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were at concealment, they could not hide their blood essence. So the heavenly wolves quickly located their position and rushed over from all directions. Yi Qinghan frowned and hurriedly called back his spirit pet. Be careful, these heavenly wolves seem to be coming for us, Yi Qinghan whispered. Everyone, get up. Be careful of defense and throw out all the dragon feces. The old man was horrified. He looked at the pairs of soul-stealing green lights and couldn't help but feel cold. Most of the young people screamed and panicked. The young great emperor called Keu lost her composure. Her screams were ear-piercing and filled the sky. Emperor Yi didn't react. These creatures couldn't do anything to him. More than 10 heavenly wolves quickly surrounded the valley. There were many powerful creatures outside, all of them under the command of the heavenly wolves. You too, get close to our area. Let's hope the dragon feces can deter these creatures, the old man said to Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. Yi Qinghan nodded and led Emperor Yi into the center of the dragon dung. The lesser dragon was a high-level creature. Its excrement was equivalent to the descent of its main body. Generally, beasts with a strong sense of territory would not attack the territory of creatures of a higher level than them. However, the heavenly wolves were different. They had a god in their clan, and some feces might not be able to scare them. Sure enough, the huge heavenly wolf spread its wings and roared as it approached the dragon excrement. More than 10 people were scared out of their wits and didn't know what to do. The heavenly wolf's speed far exceeded that of a human's. In addition to its pair of wings, it could absolutely sweep through those of the same level. The old man couldn't even last half an incense stick of time against the giant heavenly wolf. Yi Qinghan casually grabbed a leaf and shot it towards Sky Wolf with a snap of his fingers. Whoosh! The leaves were like divine weapons as they streaked through the air. The Sky Wolf was shocked. It immediately crouched down and dodged the attack. However, the leaves brushed past its fur, leaving behind a bloody mark. The Sky Wolf let out a blood-curdling cry. Its anger was overflowing. The smell of blood had stimulated its ferocity. "Don't attack them!" The old man angrily rebuked Yi Qinghan. The other young men all looked at Yi Qinghan furiously. Some of them even cursed loudly. They were extremely angry. "Don't take us with you even if you want to die." A middle-aged man at the Great Emperor realm said coldly. "Hurry up and leave. Don't stay in the circle. The heavenly wolf might just retreat after killing you." Another young man berated angrily. Yi Qinghan frowned. His aura surged as he grasped heavy madness in his hand. He stepped out of the circle of dragon excrement and directly approached the Sky Wolf. A cold aura locked down the Sky Wolf's leader. The powerful aura suppressed the Sky Wolf so much that it didn't dare to attack. It kept retreating. Emperor Yi stood with his arms crossed. He didn't make a move. As a newcomer, he had to keep a low profile and preserve his strength. It was enough for him to have Yi Qinghan make a move. Everyone was shocked to find that the Sky Wolf didn't dare to attack Yi Qinghan. It was even retreating. When Yi Qinghan took a step forward, the Sky Wolf had to take 2 steps back. Although it was still ferocious, it was timid. "Are you going to retreat, or do you want me to kill you all?" Yi Qinghan said coldly. Roared at the Sky Wolf let out a low howl. Its wings covered the sky and stirred up the sand. The dragon excrement was blown away. The old man was shocked. He quickly suppressed the excrement. Without the excrement, the creatures in the outer circle would definitely rush up and devour them. "Kill!" Yi Qinghan made a move. He slashed with his saber. It seemed slow and powerless, but it actually contained the great Tao Law. It was as fast as lightning, making it impossible for the opponent to dodge. The saber radiance could tear apart mountains and rivers. The blade's edge was enough to tear apart everything. The Sky Wolf didn't dare to block it. It rolled and immediately turned to flee. Roared out whoosh. The Sky Wolf spread its wings and soared into the sky. The other young Sky Wolves also fled. The beasts in the outer circle didn't know what to do. "Get lost!" An angry roar shook people's hearts. A few timid people were scared out of their wits. They coughed up blood and fainted. The beasts in the outer circle scattered. In an instant, the valley became extremely quiet. There wasn't even any wind. It was dead silent. The old man was shocked. Thinking of his previous attitude, he was afraid that Yi Qinghan would be angry. He quickly bowed and said, "So young master is a person with great power. No wonder you couldn't take these creatures seriously." This old man didn't know. "Please forgive me." Yi Qinghan didn't want to argue with them. Under the gaze of a group of people, he walked away with Emperor Yi. They were very fast and disappeared from everyone's sight in an instant. "Master, are you angry with them?" Emperor Yi asked with a smile. "Why would I be? Why would I argue with them?" Yi Qinghan said indifferently. "Then why did you leave in such a hurry?" Emperor Yi asked curiously. "I have a bad feeling. I keep feeling that something big is going to happen." Yi Qinghan frowned. God's region main city, Yuejun Inn. Stan Huangtian pressed on, wanting to force out Medusa's true identity. Medusa retreated again and again until she reached Stan Wuxia's side. She sighed and said, "Dao friend, why do you have to be so aggressive? I'm overbearing? Or do you have a guilty conscience and don't dare to show your true identity?" Stan Huangtian asked coldly. Stan Wuxia frowned and clenched his fists. He stood in front of Medusa and said in a low voice, "Great ancestor, let her leave. Otherwise, How am I going to face Master and Senior Sister? This has nothing to do with you. Go away. Stan Huangtian said domineeringly. Stan Wuxia didn't move. He continued to protect Medusa. Friend, you are not my match. Don't force me to make a move. It's not difficult for me to kill you. Medusa reminded faintly. Is that so? Do you dare to make a move? Stan Huangnan stared at Medusa and asked hoarsely. I just want to leave quietly. I don't want to make a move. Medusa replied helplessly. Medium god lattice. This old man wants to get it. This is a treasure that many gods have been chasing for their entire lives. Stan Huangtian shed all pretense of cordiality. His aura was rising as he prepared to make a move. Chapter 499. The atmosphere in the courtyard was stifling. Stan Wuxia's face was cold, and he didn't know what to do. One was the great ancestor, and the other was the friend of his master and senior sister. He couldn't make a choice. Medusa took a deep breath. She could hide for a while, but she couldn't hide forever. If she fought with Stan Huangtian now, the 4 god shrines in the city would definitely be alerted. By then, she wouldn't be able to escape. Since you forced me, don't blame me for being merciless. Medusa's aura turned cold as she said coldly. Calm down. If you fight now, you will only benefit from it. We are all from the endless plains. There is no need to fight here. Stan Wuxia frowned and tried his best to stop the two of them from fighting. The middle god divine core was too tempting for Stan Huangtian. It was so tempting that he couldn't control himself. He directly attacked Medusa. His blood boiled and shattered the courtyard's defenses. He suppressed Stan Wuxia and directly grabbed Medusa. Medusa's divine core was almost shattered. She didn't want to be entangled with him. She directly broke through the void and rushed toward Medusa. Boom! A figure rushed toward the city gate. Stan Huangtian followed closely behind. The powerful aura instantly alerted the god shrines in the city. Shen Kongxiao, who was not far from them, was also alerted. He waved his hand and controlled the area. Medusa and Stan Huangtian couldn't help but stop. However, both of them were extremely powerful and quickly reacted. Stay here. Stan Imperial Sky stretched out his huge hand and grabbed Medusa in front of him. Medusa gritted her teeth and gathered all her strength to attack the city gate. The city gate's defense wasn't lax, but they didn't expect Medusa to attack the city gate directly. The divine protectors were instantly scattered, and Medusa flew into the sky. However, Stan Imperial Sky was stopped by the divine protectors who had reacted. The divine protectors were enraged. There were actually people charging through the city gates and fighting within the city. Since they were unable to stop Medusa, Stan Imperial Sky became the target of their furious roars. Boom! Boom! Stan Huangtian was caught off guard and suffered a powerful attack. He directly crashed into the city wall. No matter how strong one's blood was, it was impossible to block the joint attack of 3,000 divine protectors. Stan Huangnan spat out a mouthful of essence blood and shouted angrily, "She is Medusa. Why are you stopping me?" The divine protector was startled. He didn't expect that he had let the real Medusa go and stopped the expert who had captured her. He was stunned. Shen Kongxiao and the rest of the god priests all rushed out of the door. They looked at Stan Huangtan and said in a low voice, "You stay here. If we capture Medusa this time, the merit will definitely be yours." Whoosh whoosh whoosh. 3 figures tore through the void, and the stars moved as they chased after Medusa. All divine protection guards, follow me. Begin a comprehensive search of the god's region. Don't miss a single house. A large number of divine protectors rushed out of the city. The leader of the divine protectors was Shen Kongxiao's direct descendant, Shen Konglan. As long as he had a godhead, he could break through to become a lower-level god priest. His combat prowess was unparalleled among the venerable sovereigns. A total of 30,000 divine protection guards charged out from the city, along with a large number of ordinary guards. In total, there were more than 100,000 of them. Only then did Tan Huangtian calm down. With his Emperor realm cultivation, how could he possibly have an advantage in the mythical realm? He couldn't help but secretly regret that he had let the godhead get to his head and missed such a good opportunity. The direction that Medusa had escaped in was actually Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi, who were heading toward the gods' region's main city. They happened to be in the same direction. According to their speed, they would meet in a day at the latest, provided that Medusa didn't change her general direction. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Medusa only wanted to escape and didn't want to fight. She also didn't have the energy to fight with the four god priests. Her speed was extremely fast, but her godhead was getting more and more damaged, and her god power was dissipating very quickly. Her recuperation over the past few days had been broken again. The four god priests were extremely crazy. Whoever captured Medusa would be equivalent to obtaining a mid-level godhead. Even if it was the lowest grade, their status would rise by more than 10 times. Don't let her escape. Capture her alive, and there will be more rewards. The four of them chased each other, forming a half-moon shape, not allowing Medusa to change her direction. Medusa's face was as pale as paper. She couldn't change her direction and could only rely on her advantage in speed. As long as she could find a huge mountain range and forest, she might still have a chance. The mountain range and forest in the middle plain weren't that easy to destroy, not even the god priests. They were all chasing with their lives, causing the distance of a day to be covered in less than 10 hours. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi sensed god power fluctuations in front of them. Medusa had given up on changing her appearance in the process of escaping. Now, she didn't want to waste any energy and used it all to escape. Sister. Emperor Ye's eyes pierced through the void and discovered Medusa's tracks. He flew into the sky and stopped Medusa. Medusa was shocked when she discovered Emperor Yi. She hurriedly transmitted her voice. Pretend that you don't know me. I'm wanted in the mythological plane, and I'll implicate you. How could Emperor Yi leave her in the lurch? Moreover, now that she had a godhead, dealing with ordinary god priests would be no problem at all. Emperor Yi summoned the human emperor's zither. At this moment, the zither of the human emperor's divinity soared into the sky, shining with golden light and seizing one's soul. It was almost transforming into a divine artifact. The heavenly soul godhead appeared, and its divine prowess filled the sky, intimidating thousands of miles around. Medusa didn't expect Emperor Yi to be conferred divinity. He actually had a godhead, and it was the 1 in a million heavenly soul godhead. She couldn't help but have a thought. She directly transmitted her voice, attack me and capture me. Listen to sister. Emperor Yi had almost no reservations about Medusa. He directly suppressed Medusa and captured her in his palm. The four god priests behind had only just arrived. When they saw that Medusa had actually been captured by a little girl, their expressions instantly turned ugly. Moreover, Emperor Ye's godhead was actually the heavenly soul godhead. People who had this kind of godhead were either people with astonishing talent or people with powerful backgrounds. They couldn't afford to offend them at all. Fellow Taoist, this person is a criminal. We are under orders to capture her. Can you hand her over to us? We will definitely reward you handsomely. Shen Kongshao took a deep breath. He wanted to sway Emperor Yi. Emperor Yi flew down to the ground with Medusa in hand, and gathered with Yi Qinghan. Looking at the four god priests, her expression was grave. With her status as invincible among those of the same level, it was completely no problem for her to sweep through the small plains. However, when faced with god priests, it was already not bad that she could deal with one. Emperor Yi handed Medusa over to Yi Qinghan, and said coldly, Fellow Taoists, the whole world is looking for Medusa. It is not your duty to capture her. Since I have captured her, I naturally have to go and receive my reward. There is no need to trouble all of you. It was also fortunate that Emperor Yi was a god priest, and a heavenly soul god priest at that. Otherwise, Shen Kongshao wouldn't have communicated with Emperor Yi, and would have directly killed him to fight for the spoils of war. Shen Kongshao and the others frowned. It looked like they couldn't sway Emperor Yi. However, faced with the temptation of a mid-level god divine core, how could they be willing to give up? However, Emperor Yi had a heavenly soul god divine core. Before they investigated Emperor Ye's identity, they definitely wouldn't dare to act rashly. A middle-aged man dressed in black robes looked down at Emperor Yi and asked in a deep voice, "I am Black Ape God Priest. May I know which mansion you are from?" "This has nothing to do with you. I don't want to know you." Emperor Ye's aura erupted, and he directly revealed all his trump cards. The words, "Zither Empress Battle the Arch," appeared on his left shoulder, showing that he had received a title when he was in the Great Emperor realm. Moreover, it was the supreme title of Battle the Arch. It was just that he hadn't had the time to test for the title of God yet. Battle the Arch. Shen Kongshao and the others gasped. Receiving the title of Battle the Arch in the Great Emperor realm was the supreme glory. Once he became a god, his battle prowess would definitely be on par with old monsters like them. After a few thousand years of cultivation, he could surpass a low-level god priest by too much. Sing, sing, king. The sound of the zither was bleak, and it was filled with an austere aura. Zither Empress Battle the Arch? Has anyone received this title in the recent 1,000 years? Shen Kongshao frowned and looked at Black Ape God Priest and the others. There must be a trace of a Battle the Arch who had received the title. The 9 prefectures and the 36 prefectures would confer a few great emperors every year. However, there weren't many battle thearchs. 3 to 5 battle thearchs were already a lot. After 1,000 years, there would only be 3 to 5,000 battle thearchs. It might seem like a lot, but in reality, it was even rarer than the number of god priests. Black Ape God Priest and the others shook their heads. Looking at the words embroidered on Emperor Ye's shoulder, they could confirm that this was a genuine Battle the Arch. There was only one situation for a Battle the Arch that wasn't known by others, and that was to be conferred by the Prefecture Lord privately. To be conferred by the Prefecture Lord privately, his identity was obvious. He was definitely a direct descendant of the Prefecture Lord. "I am the Prefecture Lord of the Gods Prefecture of the Mushan Prefecture. I have offended you earlier. Please forgive me." Although Shen Kongshao didn't know Emperor Ye's identity, he thought that Emperor Yi was a blood relative of some prefecture lord. He didn't dare to offend Emperor Yi and quickly bowed to apologize. "You guys can leave. Medusa, I will personally hand her over to the higher-ups." Emperor Yi didn't give them any face. Medusa had already been beaten to such a state. The reason why she could control her temper and not make a move was because she was afraid of implicating Yi Qinghan in a fight between the god priests. Shen Kongshao and the others didn't dare to say anything more and immediately retreated. However, the 4 of them were unwilling to give up. Medusa represented a medium god divine lattice. Who could give it up? "What should we do? Are we going to give up just like that?" Black Ape God Priest was unwilling to give up. In order to hunt down Medusa, he had given up on many missions. Now that he was about to get his hands on her, how could he be happy? "First, we have to investigate the background of this Zither Emperor Battle the Arch." To be conferred the title of Battle the Arch, he definitely isn't simple. A guest elder of the Mu Palace whispered. If they wanted to investigate Emperor Ye's Battle the Arch title, they would have to go to the 9 underworlds and ask the 9 underworlds master. Even the 36 prefecture lords couldn't find anything. What more these ordinary lower god priests? Yi Qinghan and the others quickly changed their direction and hid in a mountain range. Medusa was currently unconscious and her face was pale. Emperor Yi probed her body with his god power and discovered that there were a few obvious cracks on Medusa's god divine lattice. If it wasn't repaired, Medusa would fall from the altar and no longer be a god. If she wanted to condense a god divine lattice again, she would have to spend 1,000,000 years. "Master, sister's god divine lattice has cracked," Emperor Yi said sadly. Yi Qinghan's expression was ugly. He didn't expect the mythological plane to be so cruel. Medusa's cultivation level was actually beaten up so badly here. A large amount of wood elemental profound meanings surged into Medusa's body. Yi Qinghan was helping Medusa heal her external injuries. However, he couldn't do anything about the god divine lattice. Medusa slowly woke up. She didn't have the slightest bit of joy after escaping death. Her eyes were tightly shut. She didn't dare to let Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi know that she had dug out her eyes. Chapter 500. Emperor Yi carefully sized up Medusa and felt that something was amiss. He gently slid her eyelids open and saw her empty eyes. He couldn't help but take a few steps back. He looked at Medusa angrily and said coldly, "Sister, who did this?" Medusa lowered her head and said hoarsely, "It was me." "Sister, don't be angry." But Emperor Yi couldn't believe it. This was Medusa's strongest life-saving technique. Why would she give it up? Yi Qinghan clenched his fists. He knew that Medusa wouldn't gouge out her own eyes if she had the chance to escape. "Where are your eyes? Where did you put them? They can be restored, right?" Yi Qinghan leaned over and asked gently. Medusa trembled as she took out her 2 green eyes. There were still traces of blood on them. They had already dried up. "My godhood is shattered and can't be restored. My eyes won't be restored either. If you hand me over to Evil Punisher from the mythological plane, you'll get an intermediate godhood." Medusa gave up. She didn't want to struggle anymore. "What nonsense are you talking about? A shattered godhood can be restored. It's not a big deal. You're only worth an intermediate godhood. Even if you gave me 100 superior godhoods, I wouldn't care." Yi Qinghan reprimanded coldly. "It's good to know you, but if you keep me by your side, you'll be in danger." Medusa's lips curled into a sad smile. "Let me ask you, how can a shattered godhood be restored?" Yi Qinghan asked in a low voice. "I need a complete godhood that's compatible with my godhood. For example, a wood godhood or water godhood. They have to be of a very high level and can only be restored after I condense them again." Medusa was helpless. With her current strength, she couldn't kill such a powerful god. A water godhood. Yi Qinghan casually took out a very pure godhood. The water element fluctuated, and it was as beautiful as a crystal. Medusa reached out to touch it and asked in surprise, "Did you discover the tomb of the gods? How did you get a godhood? And it's such a pure one." "It's a coincidence. You don't have to ask about this now. Focus on restoring the godhood. We'll talk about it after you recover." Yi Qinghan handed the godhead to Medusa and gestured for Ren Huangyi to help. He then turned around and walked to the periphery to stand guard. He was worried that the vicious beasts would attack and frighten the 2 of them into recuperating. Medusa took the godhood. The godhood was no ordinary treasure. There were only a few gods in the middle plane, and each godhood was extremely precious. Even the closest relatives would not casually give out godhoods. Not many would be as generous as the 9 Remoteness Lord. Medusa was so touched that she didn't know what to do. Everyone was trying to kill her, yet Yi Qinghan and Ren Huangyi protected her with their lives. They even took out their divine personas to help her repair her divine persona. She couldn't repay this kindness. "Sister, you don't have to take it to heart. Master told me that he hopes to condense his own godhood and not refine it. That way, his combat power can reach its peak." Emperor Yi smiled and comforted her. "Hurry up and restore the godhood. I'll help you regulate your breathing." The most beautiful melody in the world danced in the mountains. It transformed into the most powerful divine spirit and rushed into Medusa's body. The music attracted many ferocious beasts, but it also made them restrain their ferocity and listen to the divine music quietly. Medusa slowly broke down the divine persona and absorbed it into her own, repairing the cracks. The water element divine persona was very strong. Although it was not as strong as her own divine persona, the complete divine persona was enough to repair the cracks. Yi Qinghan held Violent Hammer and stood on the mountain peak. The god-slaying eagle maintained its combined form at all times to help him fly. The start-whining vine danced, and its vines pierced through Yi Qinghan's body. It danced continuously, trying to reach out and grab some beasts. It seemed that other than eating, nothing could arouse this guy's interest. Yi Qinghan's eyes were like stars as he roamed around. Any living thing that came close would be attacked. However, the beasts were all influenced by Emperor Ye's music and stayed where they were. It even had the effect of awakening their souls. Listening to the music and comprehending the Tao. Most living things had spirituality. With Emperor Ye's music, they gradually gained intelligence. They wished that Emperor Yi could play for a while longer so that they wouldn't disturb Emperor Yi. If any living thing dared to disturb him, it would even lead to a group attack. Time passed little by little. Emperor Yi tried his best to adjust the music to the lowest level. He couldn't be like that old monster in the Nine Serenities, who could play the music and make it so that most people couldn't hear it. However, the music was very melodious and echoed in the vast mountains and rivers. It would attract some strong cultivators. Adventurers who relied on adventuring for a living were easy to deal with. However, 3 days later, a group of people were attracted. They didn't seem to be easy to deal with. Most of them were at the Emperor realm, and the weakest was at the Great Emperor realm. A group of bandits? Yi Qinghan frowned as he watched them approach from afar. There were many ferocious wild beasts and powerful creatures on the periphery. At this moment, they were all quietly listening to Renhuang Ye's guqin. If a fight were to break out, it would not be easy to resolve. Medusa's recovery had reached a critical point. Her godhead was constantly recovering, and the cracks were slowly decreasing. Emperor Ye's music kept people's souls in the quietest state. Medusa's recovery speed was much faster. Otherwise, even if she had a godhead, it would take her several years to recover. What a powerful music! The group of strong cultivators looked into the distance and noticed Emperor Yi. They all revealed evil smiles. Boss, let's capture them? The group of people laughed. That woman recuperating looks like Medusa. Someone recognized Medusa. After all, she was in her original form. We're rich. Everyone was overjoyed and looked at their boss. As long as they captured Medusa, they would have a group with a god priest. Moreover, it would be a medium god priest. They would definitely be able to establish a city and be recognized by the 36 prefectures. Capture them while they're recuperating. Capture them. Hurry up. Whoever captures Medusa will be the vice city lord. They'll be rewarded with a lesser godhead. The leader of the venerable sovereigns was about to condense a godhead. At this moment, he was extremely excited and domineering. He directly ordered the group to charge toward Emperor Yi. At this moment, the divine bird suddenly let out a few strange cries. The quiet, ferocious beasts suddenly became furious and charged toward the group of people. In an instant, at least hundreds of powerful, ferocious beasts pounced toward the group of people. There were birds, tigers, and some strange creatures that they couldn't name. Boom! The giant tiger bared its fangs and the heavenly wolf spread its wings. They swooped down from the sky. In an instant, the outside of the mountain range was in chaos. Yi Qinghan raised his eyebrows. These ferocious beasts' movements were too strange. Kakik, I told them that these bastards are going to capture Renhuang Yi. If Renhuang Yi is captured, you won't be able to listen to the guqin and comprehend the Tao, the divine bird said with a sinister smile. Don't worry, you don't have to do anything. These creatures who can listen to music and comprehend can't be weak. Most of their cultivations are about the same as the venerable sovereigns. With so many ferocious beasts, none of them can escape, the divine bird promised solemnly. She can mobilize ferocious beasts. Run! The group of people had just attacked when several great emperors were devoured. The venerable sovereigns were also beaten back and fled frantically. The ferocious beasts only chased for a few kilometers before giving up and returning to listen to the music in peace. The divine bird was immediately anxious. These bastards had actually become easy targets. They had only chased away the vigorous venerable sovereigns and returned to be elegant beasts. Yi Qinghan frowned as he watched the fleeing bandits. There were so many venerable sovereigns. It was impossible for him to kill all of them alone. He could only watch them flee. However, Medusa's identity had been exposed. They couldn't stay here for long. What should we do? Should we run too? The divine bird asked anxiously. Wait, I wonder when Medusa will be able to repair her godhead? Yi Qinghan said hoarsely. Medusa's body was bathed in divine light. After fusing with a water godhead, she had become even stronger. It took her 5 days to completely repair her godhead. She slowly stood up. With a wave of her hand, she could mobilize thousands of miles of water and turn them into sharp swords. She could even drain some trees of water and cause them to wither. It's done. You've worked hard, my son, Medusa said excitedly. "Repair your eyes and leave this place quickly." Yi Qinghan reminded in a deep voice. "A group of bandits came 2 days ago and recognized you. I'm worried that they'll inform the government." Medusa shook her head. "That's impossible. The bandits of the mythical plane have their own independent organization. They've never cooperated with the government's 36 prefectures. They'll probably look for a stronger bandit organization." Medusa placed her eyes back into their sockets and used her divine power to quickly repair them. She was done in 2 hours. Emperor Ye's music came to an abrupt end. The ferocious beasts within a radius of several miles roared in dissatisfaction and kept pressing towards the valley. Medusa opened her eyes slightly and swept them across 1,000 miles, petrifying everything. The ferocious beasts immediately knew that they were in trouble and immediately fled. "Let's leave this place. If the bandits really cooperate with the government, they'll know that you're helping me and not capturing me to exchange for the intermediate deity's godhead." Medusa was helpless. She didn't expect that Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi would drag them down the moment they arrived in the middle plain. The 3 of them quickly left. Their silhouettes disappeared in a flash as they took a detour and left God's county, fleeing deeper into the middle plain. The 36 prefectures were huge. Any small county was comparable to the size of several hundred endless plains combined. Apart from the gods who could fly, the venerable sovereigns couldn't. Even with Emperor Yi and Medusa joining forces to carry Yi Qinghan, it took them 3 whole months to escape from God's county's sphere of influence. However, all of this was controlled by a powerful bird. The whereabouts of Yi Qinghan and the others were being monitored. The bird constantly changed its position and even changed its guard. Yi Qinghan and the others couldn't be sure that these birds were controlled by a powerful beast tamer. Yi Qinghan and the others arrived at Divine Cleansing Prefecture's Xianyue County and changed their appearances. Emperor Ye's powerful divine might intimidated all the experts, making them not dare to offend the 3 of them. Even the divine guards of the city didn't dare to stop them when the gods were traveling. A single glance was enough to let them pass. Xianyue County was huge, even bigger than God's County. God's County was only a small county at the border, but Xianyue County was already considered a medium-sized county. This county had a total of 1,000 cities, and each city was comparable to the size of God's County's main city. There were countless experts, and the gods' worshippers weren't rare. At least, they could be seen in every city. Chapter 501. Xianyue County was huge, much bigger than all God's County. Many sects had their own shrines, and the county king's mansion in Xianyue County had several shrines. The county king was a top existence among the low-level shrines. He was known as Supreme God Xian. He had mastered the profound Tao and had reached the peak of perfection. Ordinary shrines were no match for him. After cultivating for 100,000 years, he had killed 6 high-level, low-level shrines. There were 7 major factions in Xianyue County, and each faction had 2 to 3 shrines. Some factions were almost on par with the official factions in Xianyue County, such as the Fire Sect, the Divine Dragon Sect, the Sky Wolf Sect, and the 3 aristocratic families in Xianyue County, the Yi Clan, the Chen Clan, and the Shangguan Clan. These 6 factions were almost on par with the official factions in Xianyue County. They had more than 100,000 disciples and successors, and they had their own immortal guards. They and the county king's mansion had divided most of the resources and minerals in Xianyue County, making it difficult for other factions to develop. Although god priests were not very rare, a newly born god priest with a clear background was definitely very popular. Many forces wanted to rope him in. Entering the sect would give him the status of a guest elder. Unless there was a war with other sects, he could always enjoy the luxurious treatment of the sect and cultivate in seclusion in peace. Emperor Yi walked in front, while Yi Qinghan walked on the left, and Medusa walked on the right. She had been specially modified by Yi Qinghan. Her eyes were added with the origin of the 5 elements, which covered her eyes that could petrify everything. When she opened her eyes, she would not hurt anything. Moreover, the color of her eyes had been changed, and she changed her appearance slightly. No one would know that she was Medusa. The glory of Emperor Ye's shrines spread far and wide. Many factions in Xianyu County knew that a very young and beautiful shrine had come to the county. Her cultivation was very powerful, and many people came to visit and invite Emperor Yi to join their sections. At first, it was just a small sect. Soon, it was the 3 aristocratic families and 3 major sections. The experts they sent were stronger than the previous, and they were very respectful to Emperor Yi. Only Yi Qinghan and Medusa were treated as Emperor Yi's servants. Most of them ignored them. Emperor Yi rejected them all the way. Of course, this was Yi Qinghan's idea. They wanted to establish their own sect, not join other sections. However, if they wanted to establish a sect in the county, they had to be recognized by the king's mansion and have a good relationship with the king's mansion. Otherwise, the sects in the county could destroy a sect. Members. Elites were. But they would not do it themselves. But the higher-level shrines were God's shrines. And gods. And God, they. God shrines. Gods were God, God. However, after a small sect obtained the official recognition of the county, they still had to attach themselves to a powerful sect or clan. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to survive. Even if they attached themselves to a powerful sect or clan, their lives wouldn't be easy. First, they would be exploited. Then, they would have to deal with those silk pants who would come looking for trouble and ask for benefits. Yi Qinghan and the others were not interested in pleasing anyone. They were just waiting for the people from the government to arrive. Sure enough, the regional king's mansion had sent someone over after only half of the 6 great forces had arrived. A bird soared through the sky, its wings covering the sun. This type of eagle was not an eagle, but it looked very similar to an eagle. Its speed was especially fast, and in the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Yi Qinghan and the others. The few middle-aged men who came down were very respectful towards Emperor Yi. A god's prestige could not be blasphemed by anyone below the level of a god. Great priest, I, the county god of Xianyu County, have learned of your arrival and have come to invite you to the main city as a guest. The middle-aged men were all dressed in the same way. The leader was definitely a top existence among the venerable sovereigns. He had some divinity in him. Although he was not a god, he had already cultivated divine skills. They ignored Yi Qinghan and Medusa. They looked at Emperor Yi expectantly. Emperor Yi nodded. He pulled Yi Qinghan and Medusa and flew into the sky. He landed on the back of the bird and said calmly, "Let's go." This kind of invitation was not strange. If a powerful god suddenly appeared in any county, it would attract the attention of various forces. The county king's manor would definitely summon them. At the very least, they would have to figure out the other party's origin. Under normal circumstances, as long as the god was not problematic, they would agree to be summoned. The bird soared into the sky, riding the wind and breaking the waves. Emperor Yi stood at the front with his hands behind his back. He looked at Xianyu County. The vast forest and mountains stretched as far as the eye could see. Large and small sects, clans, and villages could be seen everywhere. However, the flames of war could be seen everywhere. It was obvious that the mythological plane was not a pure land. The 36 prefectures and county mansions generally allowed the sects and clans under their power to fight with each other and exhaust their own strength in order to maintain a strong ruling power. Renhuangyi didn't say anything, and the middle-aged men behind him didn't dare to casually ask anything. They could only ask Yi Qinghan, who was behind Renhuangyi, a few questions. Yi Qinghan didn't want to offend them, so he told them where they came from. What? You are from a small plane? A small plane can actually give birth to a god? The middle-aged man was shocked. When he looked at Emperor Yi again, the way he looked at him changed completely. A god from a small plane would definitely be fought over by various forces. At that time, Xianyu County might not be the only one involved. Even the other counties and prefecture lords might send people over to ask for the god. Yi Qinghan smiled and nodded. Fellow Taoist, we are indeed from a small plane. If you don't believe me, you can check it out. I wouldn't dare. Fellow Taoist, you worry too much. The middle-aged man shook his head. Although he was powerful and his status in Xianyu County was second only to the god, He did not dare to be disrespectful or blasphemous in front of Emperor Yi. The middle-aged man did not dare to speak to Emperor Yi. He started to take the initiative to talk to Yi Qinghan. I am Xian Nu. How should I address you? I am Yi Qinghan. Greetings, fellow Taoist Xian. You must be related to the county deity by blood. No wonder your qi and blood are so vigorous and you have divinity attached to your body. Yi Qinghan stared at Xian Nu and found that he was obviously different from other venerable sovereigns. Ah, you have sharp eyes. I am the third-generation relative of the county deity. Xian Nu smiled and did not appear to be arrogant. Venerable God Xian had cultivated for more than 100,000 years and had more than 10 generations of descendants. Moreover, he had many sons and even more grandchildren. It was very difficult to be favored. Even if he was favored today, he would be beaten back to his original form after one mistake. The two of them chatted for a while. Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed and he asked seriously, Fellow Taoist Xian, what are the procedures to establish a sect in this county? Do you want to establish a sect? Xian Nu looked at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi in surprise. My high deity is used to being idle and free. He doesn't want to join any forces, but he wants to establish a sect by himself. But I don't know what we need to pay attention to when establishing a sect in the mythical plane. Can fellow Taoist Xian give us some advice? Yi Qinghan bowed and asked. Well, Xian Nu hesitated for a moment and said in a low voice, if you want to establish a sect, you must first get the permission of the county deity. The county deity will grant you a blessed land and this will be the address of your sect. If you are appreciated by the county deity, you will be rewarded with some minerals. Even a small piece of divine gem mine is enough for you to develop to a terrifying level. Of course, that's the most important thing. If you want to develop in any county, then you have to deal with the interpersonal relationships within an area of 500,000 kilometers. Because it's possible that some power will secretly plot against you and kill your disciples until no one dares to join your sect. Xian Nu recalled for a moment and said in a low voice, 3,000 years ago, a priest came to our county. He was arrogant and conceited. He offended all the surrounding forces. Within 3 months of the establishment of the sect, no one dared to join the sect. Those who joined were killed. Finally, the priest left in disgrace. However, he was attacked by several priests and his fate is unknown. Yi Qinghan's mouth twitched. It seemed that the priest was not omnipotent. However, since he could offend all the forces, it could only be said that the priest was a weirdo. Along the way, Yi Qinghan learned a lot. He also became friends with Xian Nu. Soon they called each other brothers. At this moment, the divine bird was not idle. It overlooked the land from a distance, looking for a real paradise. The county was vast, and many places had not been excavated. There were too many undiscovered minerals. If the crazy faction wanted to establish a sect, it must have a mineral mine as the pillar of the sect's industry. If there was a divine crystal mine, that would be the best. Divine crystal was the currency circulating among the priests. The spiritual qi it contained was countless times more than that of the highest grade spiritual crystal. A divine crystal of the lowest grade could be exchanged for 100,000 divine crystals. However, divine crystals were rare and were controlled by the government or the wealthy families. If one wanted to find a new divine crystal mine, he had to find it himself. However, even if he could find a new divine crystal mine, he had to cooperate with the government. The government would get 80% and he could only get 20%. Unless he had the strength to protect himself, like the 6 great aristocratic families, he did not need to pay 80% of the protection fee. Master, I found a mountain range with some strange divine fluctuations. There should be a divine crystal mine, but I have never seen it before, so I can't be sure. The divine bird was looking at a boundless mountain range and forest. From time to time, a powerful creature would rush out from the depths of the forest. Its sharp claws would tear the void and grab the divine bird, but it would be repulsed by the beast tamer behind. Xian Nu beast tamers had a high status in the mythological plane. They were proficient in the beast language and could communicate with powerful fierce beasts that could not speak human language. They could make use of these ferocious beasts and divine beasts. Having a senior beast tamer was equivalent to having a huge army. Yi Qinghan overlooked the mountain range. There were countless fierce beasts. Even if there was a divine crystal mine, it would not be easy to exploit it unless there was a senior beast tamer. However, the beast tamer behind Xian Nu was only an intermediate beast tamer. It was good enough that he could tame fierce beasts of the Emperor realm. A senior beast tamer could communicate with divine beasts of the God realm, and could make the divine beasts of the God realm quiet and not attack at will. He secretly remembered this mountain range. There were no powerful sects around, but there were many wandering bandits, which was not suitable for human survival. Chapter 502. Yi Qinghan learned from Xian Nu that this was the Mystic Moon Mountain Range. It was at the edge of the government's sphere of influence. The terrain was complex, and there were more than 10 sects and clans in the vicinity, including the Qin family and the Sky Wolf sect. Those who could develop here were all ruthless people. Half a day later, a towering city appeared in their line of sight. It was majestic and ancient, stretching for thousands of miles. Most of the headquarters of the major forces were built next to the city, forming an impenetrable fortress. It was full of divinity and countless experts. When Mystic Moon County was attacked by other counties, these forces would not hesitate to work together to resist the enemy. But once the war stopped, they would not hesitate to devour the weak. They were no less ruthless than the other counties. The bird landed outside the city. A priest from Mystic Moon County's palace personally appeared outside the city to welcome Emperor Yi. "I'm Xian Lang. I'm here to welcome Emperor Yi under the orders of Father God." The old man was vigorous and looked to be in his 50s. He was the son of Divine Lord Mystic, so it was not strange for him to become a priest. He was an old monster who had lived for many years and knew how to read people's expressions. He knew that Emperor Ye's news had piqued Divine Lord Mystic's interest and that he might be accepted as a disciple. Therefore, he was very polite to Emperor Yi. "Emperor Yi, thank you, fellow Taoist. Thank you, county deity. Take me to see the county deity." Emperor Yi cupped his fists. He was swift and decisive. His white hair fluttered in the wind, and his aura was oppressive. The people around him did not dare to look directly at him. "Fellow Taoist Renhuang Yi is indeed an emperor among men. You live up to your name. I admire you. Please follow me." Xian Lang also ignored Yi Qinghan and Medusa. He only focused on entertaining Renhuang Yi. Yi Qinghan did not mind. Who would take a second look at a mythological plane if it was not a priest? Moreover, he was only a great emperor and had not displayed his battle strength. Even divine lords might not think highly of him, let alone a priest. Yi Qinghan and Medusa followed beside him. Emperor Yi would occasionally look at Yi Qinghan, afraid that he would not do well enough. "Son, as long as you are neither servile nor overbearing, it's fine. This divine lord mystic is definitely not simple. Don't offend him and don't get too close." Yi Qinghan transmitted his voice. Medusa nodded and didn't say anything. She thought of herself as a servant girl who was taking care of Emperor Ye's life with Yi Qinghan. The group walked towards the center of the city. Xian Nu respectfully exchanged a few words with Xian Lang. Xian Lang kept nodding, very satisfied, and said in a low voice, "You did well this time. Father did not waste his efforts in nurturing you. As long as today's matter is successful, Father will definitely reward you according to your merits. I'll see if I can get you a lesser godhead." Xian Nu was overjoyed. The hierarchy of the Xian family was stricter than that of the royal family in the secular world. Everything depended on rewards. Godhoods were hard to come by. Usually, they would not be rewarded, not even the blood relatives of the county gods. The Xianyu County's palace was much more majestic than the secular palace. The divine guards were all great emperors. Those with some official positions were all divine lords. There were priests in several palaces. Along the way, there were green mountains and clear waters. Divine flowers bloomed. It was like a holy land. Outside the Xianyu County's palace, a cold, chilly arch of the Blood Moon divine guards stopped Yi Qinghan and Medusa. He said in a low voice, "Other than priests, no one else is allowed to enter." Emperor Yi looked down at the Chiliarch. Seeing that the Chiliarch had no intention of giving in, he looked at Xian Lang. He found that Xian Lang was also frowning in dissatisfaction. Xian Yi Tian, aren't you being too presumptuous? Do you think I don't dare to punish you because the father loves you? Xian Lang's face was cold. The young man in front of him was the commander of the Blood Moon Divine Guards, Xian Lung. There were 3,000 Blood Moon Divine Guards in total, all of whom were under his command. He was responsible for the safety of the Xianyu County's palace. As the third-generation grandson of the county god, he was deeply loved by the county god. He had never taken his second-generation uncles seriously. The same went for the priests. Although he was in the peak of the venerable emperor realm, he was about to condense a godhood. He had once fought with the priests without being defeated. Seventh uncle, I'm following the rules. I know that this fellow Taoist Emperor Yi is the person that the county god grandpa wants to see, but the two lowly servants by her side cannot enter the shrine. The corners of Xian Lung's mouth curled up as he looked disdainfully at Yi Qinghan and Medusa. Slap. Ring, ring, ring. An ear-piercing slap, accompanied by the crisp sound of a bell, resounded throughout the divine hall, interrupting Xian Lung's filthy words. Xian Lung still had a cold smile on his face, but it was getting colder and colder. He reached out and touched his face. The bright red handprint was clearly visible. He didn't even see who hit him. If it wasn't for the fragrance that assailed his nostrils, he would have thought it was Xian Lang. Xian Lung's eyes were filled with murderous intent as he looked down at Emperor Yi. He clenched his iron fist and asked hoarsely, "Did you hit me? If you dare to humiliate the people around me again, it won't be as simple as hitting you. Be careful of your head." Emperor Ye's murderous intent radiated in all directions. His eyes were filled with a terrifying will, causing the people around him to turn pale. Xian Lang's expression changed slightly. Emperor Yi had attacked so quickly that even he didn't have time to react. Although he wanted to teach Xian Lung a lesson, he couldn't do it because Xian Lung represented the county god. In the entire Xianyu County, the priests of the 6 major forces had to show some respect to him. "Ha! You are the first person who dared to attack me and also the first person who dared to threaten me. Priest? Is it that great?" Xian Lung stared at Emperor Yi. His eyes were cold and merciless, filled with evil intent. Yi Qinghan stood with his arms crossed and didn't interfere. Emperor Yi had to be independent. Moreover, this Xian Lung couldn't threaten Emperor Yi. If he couldn't do it in the end, he could go back to the 9 Serenities and worship the master of the 9 Serenities as his master. Then he could become a priest and come back. That's because you are too ignorant. Others don't care about you, and I don't want to care about a kid like you. However, I didn't kill you because you insulted my master and sister. I didn't kill you because I didn't want to dirty my hands. It's not because of your venerated status. Emperor Yi said disdainfully. It was the first time Xian Lung was humiliated like this. He was so angry that his fingers dug into his flesh. A large number of Blood Moon Divine Guards came from behind and glared at Yi Qinghan and the others. "Get lost. Or you can stop us and we will leave." Emperor Yi said coldly. Xian Lang's expression was ugly. Seeing that both sides were at loggerheads and no one was willing to back down, he signaled Xian Nu to report to the county god while he stood in the middle. He was afraid that Emperor Yi would kill Xian Lung. Xian Ling didn't appreciate it. He looked at Yi Qinghan and said disdainfully, "Don't say that I insulted these 2 lowly people. Even if I killed them, you can't do anything to me. Emperor Yi, what you did to me today, I will pay you back 100 times in the future. I will make you regret it." Yi Qinghan's eyes flashed coldly. He revealed a cold smile and a murderous aura filled the air. Xian Lang shivered and quickly turned to look at Yi Qinghan. Xian Ling didn't dare to finish his words after being stared at by Yi Qinghan. He felt that his dignity was insulted and his murderous aura filled the air. "Xian Lang, today, Emperor Yi is a guest invited by Father God. You humiliated him in front of everyone. Let's see how you explain this." Xian Lang reprimanded angrily. Xian Lung was disdainful. He was confident that he could make the county god mystic supreme god give in and detain Emperor Yi for him to deal with. At this moment, a white-haired elder walked out from the depths of the shrine. He was also a god worshipper. He was very rich in wood elements and had boundless vitality. He was awe-inspiring without being angry. This person wasn't originally surnamed Xian. However, after following God Mystic Supreme for a long time, he was rewarded by God Mystic Supreme. Not only was he rewarded with a lesser god divine spark, he was also given the surname Xian and the name Xian Yuenu. He was in charge of God Mystic Supreme's daily life and all external orders. His status was even higher than God Mystic Supreme's own son. Xian Lung and Xian Lang bowed at the same time and cupped their fists. "Greetings, Uncle Yuenu. And all of you can leave. Master wants to see Emperor Yi. As for the two beside you, just wait outside." Xian Yuenu nodded. Although his voice was gentle, it was filled with command. Yi Qinghan obviously wouldn't agree to let Emperor Yi face such an unfathomably powerful god worshipper. Emperor Yi sensed Yi Qinghan's attitude and turned to leave. Xian Yuenu didn't expect Emperor Yi's temper to be so unyielding. He didn't give him any face and just turned to leave. Xian Lang and Xian Lung were also dumbfounded, especially Xian Lung. It was as if he saw a pile of dead people. In Mystic Moon County, no one dared to ignore God Mystic Supreme's orders like this. "Wait, little girl, is there something wrong?" Xian Yuenu frowned and asked in a low voice. Ren Huangyi turned around and stared at slave Xianyue. He said coldly, "I'm just passing by Xianyue County looking for a suitable place to cultivate. I'm not your servant yet. Now you're ordering me around and giving me unscrupulous orders. You're humiliating my family. Let's go." Yi Qinghan also regretted coming to the main city of Mystic Moon County. Such aristocratic families had always been arrogant and didn't put others in their eyes. It was impossible to get along with them. "How dare you blaspheme the god's power? Take him down." Xianling saw an opportunity and was overjoyed. He mobilized the Blood Moon Divine Guards and directly surrounded Yi Qinghan and the others. "Stop. Step back and let them in." A majestic voice spread out inside and outside the godly palace. The pressure was horrifying. The will of one I could control everything. Yi Qinghan felt as if his body was 10,000 pounds heavy. It was difficult for him to even move an inch. Emperor Ye's qi and blood were also disturbed. It was as if the surrounding space was frozen. He had to get permission from Xian Zun God to move. Xianling's expression changed. He unwillingly withdrew the Blood Moon Divine Guards. Xian Yuenu gestured with his hand. Emperor Yi and Yi Qinghan looked at each other. They knew that leaving now would definitely anger Xian Zun God. They could only bet that Xian Zun God wouldn't fall out with them like this. Medusa wasn't affected much. She was just pretending. She could fight against a general under the prefecture lord. Her combat strength was obviously not ordinary. She wouldn't care about Xian Zun God. However, she couldn't make a move. Once she made a move, she would be recognized. At that time, she would have to run for her life and implicate Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. The three followed Xian Yuenu into the godly palace. As soon as they entered the godly palace, the divine aura was overwhelming. Their qi and blood were surging. Cultivating here would definitely be much faster than cultivating outside. Yi Qinghan was also shocked. The spirit qi here was too dense. Most of it was divine qi, which was of a higher grade than spirit qi. Chapter 503. A temple that was dozens of feet tall stood in the center of the god's abode. Divine light soared into the sky, and the room was filled with the light of treasures. The dragon sculptures on the pillars were vivid and lifelike. A real dragon was entrenched in the sky while a phoenix soared in the sky. They were all very mysterious. Yi Qinghan and the others entered the temple. There was a vigorous old man sitting in the temple. A crescent moon was hanging on the wall above his head. It looked like a real moon, and it was very scary. The old man was Supreme God Mystic. He was looking down at the three of them. Medusa did not dare to act strangely. She disguised herself as a supreme god and hid her godhead. She did not dare to leak any of her godhead's divine power, as she was afraid of being suspected by Supreme God Mystic. The godhead was covered by the 5 elements, and there was a large area of dark element outside. Unless there was a big battle, no one would know that Medusa had a godhead. Moreover, it was an existence that could fight against a middle god. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi were neither servile nor overbearing. Yi Qinghan was someone who did not even give face to the 9 remoteness master. He did not change his attitude even after being beaten so many times. How could he kneel to a lowly lower god now? So what if he was a top existence in the lower god temple? He had a teleportation life token in his hand, and he could be taken away by the 9 remoteness master at any time. Greetings, Supreme God Mystic, the 3 of them said in unison. However, none of them knelt down. Xian Yuanyu frowned and was a little dissatisfied. These 3 were too arrogant. Supreme God Mystic looked down at the 3 of them. Perhaps because Emperor Yi was too strong, his main attention was on Emperor Yi. His eyes were bright and full of spirit, and he looked like an immortal. After a long time, Supreme God Mystic whispered, "It's actually a heavenly soul godhead that is rarely seen in 10,000 years. Its compatibility is unprecedented. Did you condense this godhead yourself, or did you refine it?" Emperor Yi was neither servile nor overbearing. He cupped his fists and said, "I gathered the power of faith of an entire plane and condensed it into a heavenly soul godhead." Yi Qinghan had already discussed this matter with Emperor Yi. Heavenly soul godheads were hard to come by in 10,000 years. Every single godhead was recorded, and it was easy to find out the identity of the godhead. But if he condensed it himself, it was impossible to find out. On the other hand, Emperor Ye's compatibility with the heavenly soul godhead was very high, and it was hard to tell if he had condensed it himself or refined it himself. Senior God Mystic nodded and looked at Emperor Yi carefully. She estimated that Emperor Ye's age was less than 1,000 years. Finally, she showed some emotion. Such a terrifying talent was rarely seen in 100,000 years. Your talent is indeed astonishing. I admit that I cannot be your teacher. If you join my Shenyue County and swear your loyalty, I can recommend you to enter the Tianke Divine Academy. You will also have the chance to meet the young talents of the 3 clear divine nations. You will also have the chance to become a divine consort. Divine Sovereign Xian said in a deep voice. Emperor Yi rejected without hesitation. "I have a husband, and I don't need your help. If I join Shenyue County, I can be a guest, but there is no need to swear my loyalty. Your county has a high threshold, and I am not worthy of it." Divine Sovereign Xian raised her white eyebrows. She knew that Xian Lung had offended Emperor Yi. She snorted and said, "Men, call Xian Lung here." Emperor Yi was expressionless. He did not have a good impression of the Shenyue County. Now, he just wanted to find a place to build a sect. He wanted to make Yi Qinghan enter the divine realm as soon as possible. He wanted to be on par with Shenyue County and build his own city. Only then could the crazy sect establish itself. Soon, Xian Lung walked in arrogantly. But he did not expect that the moment he entered the temple, he would be forced to kneel down by Divine Sovereign Xian's aura. His crown was taken off, and his hair was disheveled. His face was full of shock. "Grandpa!" Xian Lung looked at Divine Sovereign Xian's cold expression in horror. He knew that things were not going well. In the divine abode, it seemed that those who were favored could be kicked off the altar at any time. But he did not expect that it would be his turn. Divine Sovereign Xian thought highly of Emperor Yi. Naturally, she was willing to sacrifice everything. As long as Emperor Yi joined the Divine College, he would have the chance to become the prefecture master. If he could become the prefecture master, sacrificing a grandson was nothing. "Emperor Yi, my grandson is not sensible. He offended you just now. Now, I will let you deal with him. I will not say anything." Divine Sovereign Xian said lightly. It was clear that the divine abode was heartless. Xian Ling knelt in front of Emperor Yi in horror. His whole body was trembling. Judging from Divine Sovereign Xian's tone, she had given up on him. "Lord Divine Abode, I was blind and offended you. I beg you to spare my life." Xian Lung kept kowtowing and begging for mercy. He did not dare to look at Emperor Yi directly. Emperor Yi did not even bother to look at this kind of trash. Killing Xianlong would only make the Kuang sect and the official forces of Xianyue County confront each other in the future. There was no benefit. Hence, he said, Lord Divine Abode, you don't have to do this. How can I make Lord Divine Abode and your son turn against each other? All I want is a piece of land to build my sect. If Lord Divine Abode is willing to reward me today, I will repay you generously in the future. Divine Sovereign Xian was an old fox. Naturally, he knew that he could not kill a new divine abode like Emperor Yi. Otherwise, who would dare to be loyal to Xianyue County in the future? Once the divine abode was loyal to the other 6 forces, Xianyue County would no longer belong to him. Since he could not kill Xianlong, he had to help him in his hour of need. Which Futian Grotto Earth Immortal Mountain does fellow Taoist Emperor Yi like? Tell me. As long as it is possible, I will give it to you. Divine Sovereign Xian said indifferently. The Western Gorge Mountain in the southeast corner of the Xianyue Mountains. I wonder if Lord Divine Abode can accept it? Emperor Yi asked with his fists clasped. The Mystic Moon Mountain Range wasn't completely part of the Mystic Moon County's territory. It was a natural barrier between the county and the other counties. The outer perimeter naturally belonged to the Mystic Moon County. The Western Gorge Mountain Range was surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. It was easy to defend and hard to attack. There was a canyon behind it that led to the depths of the Mystic Moon Mountain Range. It was a path that many forces had to pass through to reach the Mystic Moon Mountain Range. It had always been guarded by the Mystic Moon County's official army. On one hand, they were worried that the berserk beasts in the depths of the Mystic Moon County would attack the county. On the other hand, anyone who wanted to enter the Mystic Moon Mountain Range could do so for free. It's not easy for a sect to be stationed there. Divine Sovereign Xian frowned. Obviously, he didn't want to give up this piece of meat. Moreover, what he said was true. This piece of meat was coveted by all 6 major forces. It was fine if it was in his hands. However, once it fell into Emperor Ye's hands, they would have the intention to snatch it. Emperor Yi was silent for a moment and looked at Yi Qinghan. Yi Qinghan naturally understood Divine Sovereign Xian's thoughts. On one hand, he didn't know if this investment was worth it. On the other hand, he was afraid that this piece of land would fall into the hands of the 6 major forces. At that time, the official situation of Xianyue County would be even worse. Lord Divine Abode, as long as you agree, we can sign an eternal alliance. Yi Qinghan stepped forward and said in a serious tone. Divine Sovereign Xian sneered and looked at Emperor Yi. How could he believe in the alliance of a great emperor? Emperor Yi said directly, he's my husband. His words are my will. If the insane sect is established, he will still be the sect master. Divine Sovereign Xian frowned. The husband of a Tianhun priest was a great emperor. What a waste. With Emperor Ye's beauty and talent, it wouldn't be a problem for her to marry into the prefecture master. Emperor Yi was already married and had missed the best path to the peak. Divine Sovereign Xian was a little disappointed. However, he didn't show any dissatisfaction. He smiled and said, I see. I've underestimated you. To be able to gain the approval of the Tianhun priest, you must be extraordinary. Since both of you have agreed to sign an eternal alliance, I'm naturally happy. Divine Sovereign Xian paused for a moment and gave Slave Xianyue a look. Slave Xianyue understood what he meant and brought over a brush, ink, and paper. Once the alliance is formed, there's no room for regret. If you break the agreement, you'll be despised by the world. Even the divine nations will interfere. In the mythical dimension, it'll be difficult to move an inch. Divine Sovereign Xian reminded in a deep voice. Yi Qinghan naturally understood that the mythical dimension's eternal alliance was very binding. However, he didn't care about a small Xianyue county. He wanted to find the upper dimension. He didn't care about the middle dimension. As long as Divine Sovereign Xian could help him develop, he wouldn't mind handing over the entire mythical dimension to him. I need 2 copies. You and Emperor Yi will sign 1 each. Is that okay? Divine Sovereign Xian's eyes were like stars as he stared at Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi. He was betting that Emperor Yi would definitely be able to soar to the sky in the future. Yi Qinghan was recognized by Emperor Yi. He was definitely a terrifying existence. It didn't matter if he didn't become a divine shrine now. He would definitely shine in the future. Moreover, when he looked at Yi Qinghan, he always felt that he wasn't a good person. Yi Qinghan nodded and looked at the terms of the Eternal Alliance. It was very fair. If one party was attacked, the other party had to unconditionally participate in the battle and help the other party. If one party was promoted, the other party had to help the other party to reach the same level. This alliance seemed to be advantageous for Yi Qinghan and the others, but in reality, Divine Sovereign Xian was betting on the later stages. Yi Qinghan and Emperor Yi quickly signed and sealed the contract. Divine Sovereign Xian also signed the contract in name without hesitation. The Eternal Alliance was thus formed. Xianleng, I'll leave the construction of their sect palace to you. If there's even the slightest mistake, even if Emperor Yi is willing to forgive you, I won't. Divine Sovereign Xian reprimanded coldly. Yi Qinghan shook his head and said, No need. I'll build my own sect. If Lord County God is willing to help, why don't you ask Xian Nu from your sect to help me? I have a good time with him and we can work together. Divine Sovereign Xian was stunned and then said, Okay. From today onwards, Xian Nu will be the commander of the Blood Moon Divine Guards and help you build your sect. Xianleng was instantly thrown into the cold palace and laid on the ground. Xian Nu was overjoyed. He was so excited that he wanted to hug Yi Qinghan and kiss him. Xianleng was also full of smiles. Now that Xian Nu had become the bridge between Yi Qinghan, Emperor Yi, and the county god, he would definitely be rewarded handsomely in the future. Furthermore, as long as the Eternal Alliance was in place, Xian Nu would not fall out of favor. Yi Qinghan and the others retreated. Divine Sovereign Xian had a strange smile on her face. Slave Xian Yuenu could not understand why her master, who had always been cautious, would sign the Eternal Alliance with Yi Qinghan in such a hurry. That Yi Qinghan actually has the super long-distance teleportation gold medallion. He has been holding it in his hand since he entered the Divine Palace. They are not afraid of me because they are invincible. These two people are not simple. From today onwards, you will personally support him and help him build his sect. Let them gain a firm foothold. Divine Sovereign Xian said excitedly. You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.